3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Jeffrey Howell in the chat says, got a little advice for me. Maggie, for your 40-yard dash at next year's draft, have someone attach a bag of gummies to a stick like they do at a dog track. See, that implies that I needed some kind of motivation. The motivation was to not embarrass myself, which I'm pretty sure I did. I had like a Fred Flintstone kind of wind up where I was like, like my feet were going, and then I took off.
Yeah.
Like
you were
fast feet.
Next year, maybe, can we get you a coach or something? Somebody tell you how to get out of the blocks?
How about just like a pair of shorts?
Some sneakers, maybe?
I gotta plan a little better for this thing.
The upright running style, you have so much wind resistance.
I told you, I'm taller than people think, so that's a whole 5'8". I'm like a parachute out there.
They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
Starting to get really nervous about the 49ers. Hey there. Welcome to Maggie and Perloff. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. Yes, it is still training camp. It is rivalry week here on the show. We'll get to that a little bit later. But Perloff, I'm finding it hard to see the positive stuff that's coming out of 49ers training camp. I'm seeing Brock Purdy almost taken out by Clelin Ferrell. I'm seeing Sam Darnold going 1 for 5 in training camp. Nick Bosa still not at training camp amidst a contract holdout. I think it's interesting how we pencil the 49ers basically into the NFC Championship game every year when I'm wondering, why are they regression proof? I'm looking at what's going on with their quarterback situation, and I'm thinking what's happening. You're expecting that Christian McCaffrey is going to stay healthy for a full year? I don't expect that. And I'm wondering, where is all the super positivity for the 49ers? Is it actually warranted this year? Or are they getting by on reputation?
Well, first of all, who's penciling the 49ers in every year? 2 years, when they first made it with Jimmy G and lost the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, I don't think a lot of people had them. Then it was shocking when they weren't supposed to be there. When they beat Green Bay in a cold night with a block punt. No one thought they'd be in the NFC title game last year. Then last year, when everybody got hurt, everyone assumed they'd be gone as well. So they sort of are the scrappier team. I don't think they're a favorite.
Okay, but if I asked you, are the 49ers a top 5 team in the NFL?
Well, this year, yes, but not last year, no way.
Okay, well, they're a team that does have Super Bowl expectations.
Yeah. Now they're definitely a top 5 because they've done it. They've been in the NFC title game three of the last 4 years with no one expecting anything out of them.
Right, that's what I'm saying now.
Right. But you said they pencil them every year. This is a team that I think have always been underrated, and I think people are still underrating them now.
Wow.
I think people do not understand how good this team is because they're not built like other teams. They don't have the star quarterback. They don't have Joe Burrow. They don't have Josh Allen.
Yeah.
They don't have Patrick Mahomes. What they do have is something completely different that I think defies the current NFL and is, in many ways, just they're zagging when everyone else is zigging.
Okay.
Sorry, it's the other way around.
Yeah,
so
right.
that gives them an advantage.
But I think that at some point, doesn't it catch up to you?
No, it's not so far.
Okay, well, but I'm thinking about this year, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is a step back year for the 49ers because I just can't get past this quarterback thing. And it's Brock Purdy coming off of the elbow surgery, right, and the big elbow injury. And then it's Trey Lance who, listen, I don't want to base one thing off a clip or here or there, but it's not like I'm hearing reports out of the 49ers that Trey Lance is blowing the doors off of everybody and, like, winning this job when the job is there to be won.
Right.
And then again with Darnold, who, I'm seeing, just terrible in terms of, how he's performing in training camp. Again, it is training camp, and I could just give you Sam Darnold's whole career on a platter, and I'll tell you that it's not going to bode well for him there.
Did you seriously give a Sam Darnold 1 for 5 in training camp practice stat? What the heck are you doing?
It's on top of the fact that I've watched every Sam Darnold snap, and
Sam Darnold,
he's challenged.
If you prorate his stats for being a Jets quarterback, he's basically Patrick Mahomes. So I just think that quarterbacks get with Kyle Shanahan and they improve. And listen, Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, led them to 10 straight wins at the end of last year. Brock Purdy. I mean, we saw he was supposed to be good at Iowa State. It never really came together. And the guy has a lollipop for an arm. He does not have a strong NFL arm, and they still sort of dominated everyone and probably would have had a great chance against the Eagles if Purdy didn't get hurt. So they can't be worse than last year. I mean, why would they? I understand the injuries, but I feel like they can cobble it together just like they did last year. And they might be better with Sam Darnold at least in the mix.
I don't think so, but because think about that, right? Now you have, and I know Purdy did excellent. That was one of the biggest stories in the NFL last year, rightfully so. It was a guy who maybe, because the arm wasn't very big, but someone who had tons of experience playing in college, right? So you had Brock Purdy, who had been 4 years in the system, lots of game action, as opposed to Trey Lance, who has not played and has no game experience, and there's nothing there for him. So you had the opposite of that. It ended up working because he was able to run this, like, I don't want to say simple because I'm sure there's more to it than that, but that's sort of the Kyle Shanahan thing, right? It's a little turnkey. And you have all of these great weapons. But at the same time, I can't expect that Brock Purdy's going to have the same magic when you give teams enough time to game plan for him. I'm not going to expect that Christian McCaffrey is going to stay healthy for a full year. That's always been the knock on McCaffrey. And am I expecting the offensive line to take a step forward? I'm not reading great things about that coming out of training camp either. Now, granted, I'm reading these reports from afar. I'm not standing out there and watching it with my own eyes.
Yeah, again, it sounds like we're kind of downplaying the Niners, at our own peril because Again, look at the year before, last year, the year before. First of all, their running back before McCaffrey got there has been a list of nobodies like Elijah Mitchell and Raheem Mostert, who stepped up and were incredible. I think the last thing you have to worry about is Kyle Shanahan figuring out a way to get some yards on. The question always with them is health. They're one of those teams that always gets injured.
Yep.
I need something on the record here, and I need everybody to help me. I need your reaction now compared to when Sam Darnold wins an NFL playoff game. Because it is happening, Maggie.
Listen,
it is an inevitability. They need 3 quarterbacks because all 3 will get hurt. All 3 will play. So I have no problem with...
Okay, at some point also, is that Shanahan not scheming up that his quarterbacks can be protected a little bit? In the NFC Championship game, he sort of left Brock Purdy with Hassan Reddick coming through like a freight train.
Yeah, but, I mean, listen, you're going to fault Shanahan for his offensive gameplay. Tell me a play caller you'd want instead of him. There's only 1 or 2 that I would accept.
I'd rather have Bruce Arians. I'd rather have maybe a LaFleur. Maybe
get out of here.
Give me Sean McVay any day of the week.
I take McVay and Reed. Bruce Arians is out of the league.
Oh, yeah, Andy Reid. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you would take a LaFleur? You were just trying to randomly think of play callers.
I never remember who's the Green Bay coach and who's the other coach. Mike Matt, it's the same guy.
I mean, I think Shanahan's probably, I mean, I guess Andy Reid is the main company. Kyle Shanahan is unbelievable. I don't know why you have a problem with him, at least as an offensive coach. I understand some of the bigger picture stuff.
Well, I mean, he's got some high-profile failures. I mean, why?
Like what?
I don't have 28-3 would be
one. Yeah,
one.
but he wasn't the head coach.
10-point, but offensive coordinator with a defensive coordinator, a defensive-minded head coach.
Yeah, who should have stepped in and said, don't do this.
Okay. Well,
stop throwing the ball.
Okay,
that's not Shanahan's fault.
Okay.
A little bit.
We're going to disagree on that because I think he wears that. I think having a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl he wears and losing to Mahomes.
Okay, but I mean, Tyreek Hill broke free on a deep pass.
I'm just telling you. You're asking, does it not go on his permanent record? It would go on everyone else's. It'd go on Mike McCarthy's if we were talking about McCarthy.
It does.
It should go on his.
But if anything, credit the fact that they're going into camp with Trey Lance coming off a broken ankle.
Yeah.
Brock Purdy with a Tommy John situation, basically, and Sam Darnold, and they're still 4th in the entire NFL in Super Bowl odds, shows you how much respect this guy gets.
He does get respect, and I respect the hell out of him, but the Trey Lance thing is their own doing. That's also got Shanahan's fingerprints on it, because do you believe that John Lynch is really sitting up there making these decisions unilaterally?
He made that.
No way.
Well, isn't the narrative that Shanahan wanted Mac Jones and the John Lynch and the other guy, the president, wanted Trey Lance, and they convinced? That's the narrative. I
don't know if we've ever really gotten to the bottom, because now nobody wants to wear Trey Lance. Like it's like the failure is an orphan, right? And success has many fathers, or whatever that. I've
even heard you say this. Everyone thinks that Kyle Shanahan wanted Mac Jones.
I think that there was a thought about Mac Jones, and I think that Shanahan and all of them came to a consensus that they wanted Trey Lance. They all should wear that. You don't think the offensive-minded head coach should have to wear who the quarterback is?
No, okay. I admit. But also, too, we've seen Trey Lance play 4 games. So I think this is a little premature.
But why isn't he killing it at camp?
He's 23 years old. He's coming off a broken ankle. You're right. He has not played a ton of football. And he's had some bad camps, and then there are reports that he's improved greatly from last year. So who knows? It's camp. You cannot take these headlines seriously. And don't give me any more stats, because if a guy is 10 for 10 in training camp, then that tells us nothing.
The only reason why I gave you that stat, I don't normally give training camp stats, is just to underscore, because you don't believe me that just watching Sam Darnold is enough to tell you that he's not a competent quarterback, that I needed to give you that stat just to underline it.
I've seen Sam Darnold have some good drives, and he has never had a coach like this or anywhere close. You know, I actually, he was in Carolina last year, right? Like, yeah. I have no idea what that was all about. That should be did not count at all. Yes, he failed as the Jets quarterback, but a lot of that was on the team. Can't you admit we didn't really get to see what Sam Darnold might have been in another situation?
Well, we did in Carolina, but yes, I mean, the Jets are their own brand of failure. Maybe not this year with Rodgers, but they're their own brand of dysfunction and bad and punchline. But it didn't get that much better in Carolina.
Okay, here's why. Even as down as you are on the 49ers right now, I don't even think you can rule them out because of one reason. Look at their conference.
See,
I mean, come on.
But you don't, I mean, I know the Seahawks just had some injuries with the running backs, which is a bummer, right? But
running backs are generic. Who cares?
Seahawks might. I don't know if I think that's going to be a neck and neck dogfight. I don't think Seattle. I think that was a flash in the pan last year. Why can't Geno do the same thing?
Great. Enter the playoffs. Let's see you deal with
that. Was a close season. Playoff game.
Let's see you deal with the season 49ers for beating everybody in the playoffs. But basically, it gets to be December, January. The 49ers just start going downhill, assuming they have the two of the top 5 defensive players in the NFL, Nick Bosa and Fred Warner. This isn't about the quarterback with him. This is about Nick Bosa killing your quarterback and Fred Warner just terrorizing your running backs.
It's been great. So far, it hasn't worked. They've been beaten by better quarterbacks.
Okay.
When it mattered.
Yeah, when it mattered. But listen, they've gotten to the NFC title game 3 out of the last 4 years.
No,
and I'm telling you, they could easily be back this year.
Okay, but you're the one who always accuses me of giving out participation trophies when people just make it to the Super Bowl or make it to the NBA Finals or make it to the World Series. This is like kind of a participation trophy thing because if they had just had a franchise quarterback, maybe we're talking about them winning 2 Super Bowls.
I am rethinking
in the last 5 years.
I'm rethinking that whole philosophy about the participation trophy because my Phillies made the World Series and lost, and my Eagles made the Super Bowl and lost. Yeah, I just think that they're right in the mix again this year because they have a very different style. I think that they can run with anybody. I think their defense is as good as anybody's. So, come on, it's the NFC. AFC, I would not give them a great chance. I'll tell you right now, the AFC.
Too many good quarterbacks, right?
The AFC, yes, they would run it. But if you're picking a time to be without a quarterback, it's the 2023 National Football Conference.
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Also helped here, their schedule is not exactly murderer's row either.
I mean it's a little harder than, they have
to play the AFC North.
That could be a problem.
That's tough. But they're home for the Bengals and they're home for Baltimore. So they lucked out there.
They're one of those teams just wants to get to the tournament. The year that they beat Green Bay, they were certainly not a great team, I think. And they should have beaten the Rams that year. Now, again, the defense, I think, hurt them as well. It's not just Kyle Shanahan's play calling. Kyle Shanahan's great. This year, that's one of the many things I'm excited to watch with you, Maggie.
What's that?
Is how the Niners do with these quarterbacks. I think we were sort of like setting up these situations that we're both eager that we disagree on. I'm just waiting for Sam Darnold to have a good game and to come in on Monday morning and be like, ha, told you so.
We'll see. A rivalry week continues here on the Maggie and Perloff show. Today, we do 2 different rivalries. So as you guys know, if you've been watching the show or listening this week, we're doing one sports rivalry and then one cultural rivalry, like one non-sports. So today we're doing greatest baseball rivalries of all time. And we're also doing greatest TV show rivalries of all time. And we're not talking about the characters fighting each other. Not like that.
Not Dwight Schrute.
No, not like Jim and Dwight Schrute. No.
Which would be very fun, too, by the way.
We could have done that
later in the week.
We're not doing that. We're doing shows versus each other. And who's got the greatest rivalry. And as a bonus, someone who had a front row and was part of one of these massive TV rivalries is going to join the show later on to give us the real firsthand account of what this was like to go up against another TV show every single night. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But we start with the greatest baseball rivalry of all time. Hey, by the way, we met Stu's girlfriend last night. She's lovely. First of all, adorable. Stu, lucky you.
Thank you.
Lucky both of you. You go together. This is like, it makes a lot of sense. You guys look great.
I didn't know we were going to go here. We're going to talk about Stu's girlfriend on the air, right to his face.
Wasn't she lovely?
Yes, she was. But I don't know. I felt like, I don't know. Stu, I could actually hear him.
I didn't ask Stu before.
I could hear him blushing on the radio right now.
This is great. I love this.
Stu, way to lie to us.
If you love it so much, how come why did we just meet her for the first time yesterday randomly and you looked like you wanted to hide when she showed up?
No, I was excited. She was excited to meet you guys. I was excited to introduce her to you guys. And
she's so excited that you waited a year and a half.
Well, she's not in the area by this office a lot.
She's got a job. She's got a life. She's adorable. She's got, friends and places to be.
Yep.
Working 12-hour days.
Are you saying that people who are not adorable don't have friends?
Oh.
Am I saying that? I might be. Specifically, though, Stu's girlfriend. Very cute.
Yeah. I mean, the cutest, and this is nothing against your girlfriend, our kids.
Yeah.
The cutest member of the Maggie and Perloff show is Mike Samter's dog. I mean, it is.
Well, also Samter's wife, also adorable.
Samter's wife, but your dog is, if you were going to have a contest to get the most awes, it would be your dog. Am I right? And you have a baby, Mike.
My baby is very cute, but it's very hard to argue with Oliver being the cutest thing on the planet.
Should we rank the cutest members of the Maggie and Perloff show?
Yeah.
Because Emma and Lucy, your daughters.
Yeah, my youngest daughter, she's getting a little older, but she's in the competition.
Which is the one that cursed about her teacher?
That's Emma.
Awesome. She's got my win.
I know. I think because she dropped the F-bomb, she might have my win, too.
When she was 9 years old. This is going to happen to all of you guys.
I'm going to be honest, not to toot my own horn, but my kid could easily be in an Oshkosh Bagosh commercial.
Oh, well, by the way, the things that Maggie's son says are unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, like, honestly, if you were trying to script a commercial, you could not be as cute as Lucas.
I know. This would be a tough ranking. This would be the power ranking to end all power ranking.
And I love that Lucas calls me Perloff.
Yeah,
like, I'm like, not Mr. Perloff, Perloff.
He does, from the TV. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. So we do have a lot going on. Again, the Great Debate Series, Rivalry Week, greatest baseball rivalries of all time is next. Then later on, the greatest TV show rivalries of all time. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Don't move. More Maggie and Perloff in just moments.
You're in a 5-minute break. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
We're back on Maggie and Perloff. The Great Sports Debate series continues today. Later in the show, we're going to do television show rivalries. Again, not within the TV shows, but shows that went up against each other and had great rivalries. I have one. I have an iconic one. We'll get into that in a little bit. But right now, it's baseball time, Maggie.
Let's do it.
The Great Debate Series. Best sports rivalries.
Okay, so the sports rivalry today is the greatest baseball rivalry of all time. We did NFL rivalries on Monday. We did college football yesterday. Today we do baseball, and then as Perloff said, later in the show we'll do TV rivalries.
Right. So baseball. Why did you start, actually?
Okay. The greatest baseball rivalry of all time is the Los Angeles Dodgers against the San Francisco Giants. Now, this rivalry goes back so far. These teams weren't even in LA and San Francisco when iconic moments like this happened. Okay, so of course that's Bobby Thompson, shot heard around the world. These two teams have had more NL pennants than any other team. The Dodgers with 24, the Giants with 23. The Dodgers have won the NL West 19 times to the Giants 9, but the Giants have more World Series wins since the teams have moved to California 6-3. This is shocking, even though we all know it, but it's shocking still. 2021 NLDS, the first time in the 131-year history that the teams faced each other in the postseason while they were in California. I mean, crazy that in the NLDS, and it ended up being iconic in that respect with Max Scherzer coming in for a save.
0-2, Scherzer to Flores. Just outside. He went around. Strike three, Gabe Morales, the first base umpire. The Dodgers are going to the National League Championship Series.
I mean, so many amazing moments, Perloff, and such bitter feelings. I mean, there's a really serious aspect of this, too, with fans getting into altercations that have been fatal, that have been altered lives for the worse. We know how passionate these fan bases are. This rivalry is just so to the core. And one other thing about this rivalry, it's also the cities in a rivalry. Los Angeles versus San Francisco, different vibe. Lots of times different politics. Lots of times just different outlooks on life between these two different cities. Very, very different, even though they're not that far away from each other. And I think it adds to the rivalry. I think LA people don't like San Francisco people, and San Francisco people do not like LA people. And the baseball team is just one way that it shows itself.
I don't know if I agree with that last part. You're telling me I have a million friends in L.A. and a million friends in San Francisco.
There's a rivalry between the cities.
There's a rivalry, but I don't know. To say that they don't like each other seems a little strong.
True.
This is California. You're saying people in the... Okay, well, I'm obviously going to go with the Red Sox Yankees. Talking about not like each other. Boston and New York City, they go back to the plot of Hamilton. They've been disliking each other since the country was formed in 1776. Talk about hatred. Mine is the older, more intense hatred. Boston, New York, and Yankees, Red Sox. I mean, I think it's right up there, one of the 5 greatest rivalry in all of sports. It's so iconic. You can look at it recently. I think after the PED scandal with McGuire and Sosa and Bonds, Yankees-Red Sox was all baseball had, and they rode that coattails for about 10 years because you obviously had 04 when the Red Sox finally broke the curse, down 3-0, came back to beat the Yankees. That was all baseball had, and they leaned on this rivalry more than I think any pro sport has leaned on a rivalry in recent years because rivalries are not as big a deal. This one has sort of endured. Now, it's a little bit down right now. This could be one of the rare years which neither team makes the playoffs. They could actually, I was just reading a story, they could both miss the playoffs with a winning record, which is they'd be in last place in their division with a winning record, and that has never happened in baseball history. So there's a lot of history here. Obviously, it goes back to a guy named Babe Ruth, who was on both teams, as you recall. He was for you who don't know who Babe Ruth is, he was a Shohei Ohtani of the 20th century.
Enlighten us.
Yeah, so the curse of the Bambino, the Yankees and the Red Sox had an ill-fated trade. The Yankees went on to become the greatest franchise in professional sports, and the Red Sox have always been looking up to them. Of course, the highlight for many Yankees fans was Bucky Bleepin' Dent.
Yep.
1978 in the playoff game, hit a home run. Little Bucky Dent. I know that's more of a Northeast thing, but his name is iconic because of this rivalry, and a lot of guys are like that. 03 and 04 were these great great playoff moments. I think it still endures, even as rivalries have kind of slowed down in baseball. I think free agency has gutted a lot of rivalries in all sports, especially baseball. So look how much movement there is. Look at your Mets yesterday, for example.
Please don't.
Guys move all over the place, but there are just a couple uniforms that are so important, and Yankees Red Sox is at the top of that list. I'll say the Dodgers Giants, too. It doesn't matter who plays for those teams. There's still going to be hatred, but it's even more intense for the Yankees Red Sox.
And, of course, who could forget moments like this?
Oh, my goodness. Don Zimmer and Pedro Martinez. Oh, that's awful. Don Zimmer, a 72-year-old man, went into Pedro Martinez's face, and Pedro Martinez threw him down. Terrible. Awful.
I don't mean to laugh, but it's a funny image that we can all conjure because everyone's okay. You know, Don Zimmer has passed away since then, obviously, but he was fine. He dusted himself off. Yes.
Yeah, that was great. We're going to talk about a certain sock that was
the Kurt Schilling?
may or not have been bloody. Real quick, what's your take? Was that real?
Yeah, I think it's real. And Schilling, believe me, like no love lost there. I'm not a big Schilling person, but
yeah, I kind of think it's real too. But I do like people who totally don't believe that.
Don't believe
and actually think he put ketchup on his sock because that would be
to create a moment.
I'm in that camp.
Are you really?
I don't buy it.
Well, you really think he would go out of his way and put ketchup on his sock? That's just a bridge too far, no?
I mean,
wait, do you also believe that Jose Altuve was wearing a buzzer underneath his uniform? Do you believe everything that's happened against the Yankees?
Yes.
But by the way, I believe it. The Altuve buzzer is definite.
Oh, you guys are nuts if you think he actually had a buzzer under there. He didn't.
What? Wait, Stu, do you believe the buzzer?
I believe the buzzer.
You do?
I think everybody believes the buzzer.
No. But think about how silly that really is. Does anyone else have a buzzer? Has anyone come forth about the buzzer?
Throughout history, I'm sure there's been thousands of buzzers.
On that team. You think all these years later, nobody would have spilled the beans? Nobody said a word? How many times can you have 26 people all keep a secret?
Well, they might not have all known about the buzzer.
No, well, wouldn't it be there to help everybody? Okay, so the video guy, if we got Deflategate and those guys who came forward, well, they didn't come forward, but they got smoked out, the equipment guys. There's no way that this wouldn't have been revealed in more certain terms.
Yeah, but it was so awkward the way he was hiding something.
He had a stupid tattoo and didn't want people to rip his shirt off.
Oh, get out of here.
I believe that.
Who on earth?
Sure.
Wait a minute,
anyone I know with a tattoo wants to show that tattoo more than anything in the world.
There's no point of getting a tattoo to show people that you have a tattoo?
All people with tattoos want to do.
Have you ever had someone who got a really bad tattoo? I know somebody who got a tattoo when I was in high school, and he got a tattoo of the outline of the country of Italy, and the boot's kicking the wrong way. He does not like to show his tattoo. True story. Went on to be a Marine. Thank you for your service.
But it's funny. You know that about that too. I'm sure he's told that story 1,000 times and is probably more proud of the backwards boot than anybody or any tattoo ever.
Guarantee you he's not. He's mortified by it.
Get out of here.
Ackerman, you believe that Jose Altuve really had a buzzer underneath his uniform?
It wouldn't surprise me.
Hacker, do you believe that Schilling really had blood on the sock?
Yeah, I think. But I also think that might have been a little. Could have been, especially knowing what we know about Curdy. Probably could have embellished that blood a little.
How do you embellish blood?
Sort of a little ketchup or something like that. I'm just saying that.
Wow, you guys! I thought I was the conspiracy theorist around here. You guys sound whack. Like you whacked out of your mind.
You say whack?
I've been whacked out of your minds.
You're saying a buzzer is crazier than hitting a garbage can in the third row?
Okay,
that's insane.
The garbage can is like lo-fi and kind of stupid. Like the guy to watch, he got the signal and then he hit the garbage can. You're telling me you have a buzzer that's got to be attached to something and then someone's got to hit something on the other side for the buzzer? Like,
first of all,
it's a conspiracy. There's got to be two people involved.
I bet you there have been dozens of MLB players who've had buzzers. I'll bet, first of all, poker players all have buzzers.
Well,
that's a given.
Well, we learned about
it's
the
not
chess
that hard to sneak a buzzer in because it's been done in cards since the beginning of time. I would bet anything there's been hitters with buzzers.
But you have no evidence of this. You're just saying this. There's never been an expose. So there's been dozens of hitters throughout time, yet not one person has owned up to it. Deep Throat eventually came clean on his deathbed, yet nobody would come clean about this.
Do you know the percentage of guys who have corked their bat and we don't know about? You know how many
some people do.
We know like a few. Yeah, but
it'd be impossible that we'd never hear.
Thousands of MLB players have corked their bats, and we've found out about like 5.
No, but think about it. So even one person coming out with the buzzer would be a huge story. Like definitively, this happened in 1988 or something. No, and that's never happened. So how can you definitively
many cork bats do you know? There's one. I bet I don't. I mean, how many cork bats? Sammy Sosa. Has there been a lot of famous cork bat being
Albert
caught?
Bell.
Did he get caught for a cork bat?
They confiscated the bat, and then who was it who went through the heating vent at then Comiskey Park to try to get it back?
Oh, I don't remember this.
It was like 1995.
That sounds awesome, by the way, whatever's going on. I don't know. I assume.
Jeez, I didn't realize you guys were such a bunch of rubes.
I think more people believe Altuve than believe Schilling put ketchup on his sock. I mean, I thought we all thought Altuve, was doing something. You think he was covering up a tattoo? The way he described that story, it sounded like the biggest lie I'd ever heard.
And he said his wife didn't want him. The wife didn't like it when everyone ripped his shirt off.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, listen, I get it.
It's a little strange, though, and the fact that if he was wearing a buzzer, and they obviously his teammates would have known about it, and he has to remind them not to rip my shirt off.
Yeah, right.
Well, yeah, but why would all his teammates might not have known? They might have kept that a little quieter.
True.
I know, but again, everyone knew about the garbage can.
Well, first of all, they were obviously stealing signs, so they're definitely they were in the realm of cheating.
Yes, they were.
The question is about how they cheated.
Okay, but that's a big bridge you're stepping over.
Hitting a garbage can in the third row of the stadium, it's not like they were about subtlety. So, yeah, I think a buzzer would have made more sense than that. If I was going to cheat, figure out a way to have a sign stealing controversy, I would go to a buzzer before hitting a garbage can to have some guy on Twitter catch me.
Okay, but the people so the players, they were granted immunity, right, with the commissioner?
Okay.
So they were granted immunity where they said everything about the garbage cans. And then there were people who were fired who, if they knew about the buzzer, would have every reason in the world to go to it with the press.
Yeah, but maybe not everyone knew about the buzzer.
Okay, but everyone knew about the garbage can.
Yeah, because how could you hide that? It's boom, boom. It's really loud. A buzzer could be with like 3 people.
But everyone knew about the buzzer because, well, why do it if it's not going to help everybody? Like, why would you? First of all, Jose Altuve is like the last person who even needs help. He's actually
That's not true.
Reigning MVP.
Yeah, it's like the Barry Bonds doesn't need help argument.
I'm just saying. Why do you think
he was a reigning MVP, by the way?
Well, I mean, it's not like he was a one-hit wonder there. He's been
because he'd been stealing signs forever.
But he's been excellent even after the scandal. The Astros have won since the scandal.
Has Altuve's number stayed that high?
He's dealt with some injuries.
Interesting.
Yeah. Anything I could have said there, you would have been like, interesting.
Well, if you had said yes, I would have been like, really?
Wait a minute. Samter, can you
you could have told me yes, by the way.
Do you actually believe Altuve had a buzzer?
Do you think it's possible that Altuve had a buzzer?
No, you guys think he did. Don't soften the language.
Well, you think it's impossible, right?
I think it's impossible.
I think it's possible.
You think he had it. Not impossible. You think he had it. I got to nail you here with the language on this poll.
Okay.
Do you think Altuve was using a buzzer?
All right, and I'll put up my own poll.
No. Not again.
It's a free country. I can put up any poll I want to pull
Well, the results of that are not going to count.
Oh, it's a free country card for a Altuve poll.
It's called the First Amendment, guys. Look it up. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Okay, so we've got baseball rivalries to get to, which we did. You're welcome to weigh in on that. I say it's Dodgers and Giants is the greatest baseball rivalry. Perloff says it's Yankees Red Sox. Coming up, which young quarterback says he's tired of the defense kicking the offense's butt in training camp? We'll get to that in just a moment after this CBS Sports Update. Here's Rich Ackerman.
Sports Flag.
And it's sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Insurance for motorcycles, boats, and RVs for protection on the road and on the water. See how much you can save at 1-800-PROGRESSIVE and Progressive.com. Lots of baseball this afternoon. The Braves keep rolling. And not only do they have the largest division lead, 11.5 games, they crushed the Angels today 12-5, getting home runs from Ronald Acuna Jr. and Austin Riley, both of whom hitting their 25th, while Matt Olson hit his 37th in the victory. Also, Detroit down Pittsburgh by a score of 6-3. Eduardo Rodriguez staying in Detroit, vetoing the trade or potential trade to L.A., gets his 7th win of the season. Riley Green and Jake Rogers with home runs in this one. Also right now, bottom of the 5th, Houston and Cleveland are even at 2. In the National League, Washington defeated Milwaukee by a score of 3-2. Devin Williams blew the save and takes the loss for Milwaukee. He's now 5-3. Bottom of the 2nd, it's San Diego on top of Colorado, 1-0 on a leadoff home run by Ha-Sung Kim, his 15th of the season. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Summer is officially here, but CBS Sports Radio never goes on vacation. We'll keep you company all season long with the most entertaining content and all the breaking news you need to know. Keep us locked in on your local Odyssey affiliate, Sirius XM Channel 158, or the free Odyssey app.
CBS Sports Radio.
'You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time to Ask the Pros, where you, the listener, gets to ask us a question, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at CBS Sports Radio or at Maggie and Pearl using the hashtag #AskThePros. Be listening later in the show when we might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. I just want the record to show that Maggie Gray called us, quote-unquote, rubes for believing that Jose Altuve might have had a buzzer under his uniform.
Did I say that?
Coming from Maggie, who has basically believed every sports conspiracy theory I've ever heard, from the frozen envelope to every little possible cheating scandal. But she's a Bills fan, and she assumes the Patriots have bugged every locker room since the beginning of time.
Yep.
Anyway, we're rubes, and I'm watching the video again. It is so awkward when Altuve crosses a plate and says, "No one touched my shirt." Okay, whatever. I'm not even going to get off. There's a poll that I think will speak to this later.
Well, the Astros, so RPC is in the chat, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio. He's like, Maggie, terrible idea. You're going to lose the poll by 1 million because people hate the Astros still, and they're just going to pile on with the Astros.
Oh, that's funny. Already, you don't even know the results, and you're already throwing excuses out there, huh?
Well, I'm just saying what RPC said in the chat. And then Dan in Vegas in the chat said someone would have spilled the beans by now if he had a buzzer. And that's what I'm going off. You know what they always say about keeping a secret, right? How do 3 people keep a secret if 2 of them are dead? Because nobody can keep that secret. As I said, Deep Throat even came clean on his deathbed that, whatever. So I think that it'd be impossible to keep this under wraps.
Well, I mean, the Patriots have kind of at least had a seed of doubt about Deflategate, and we all think they probably did that. But,
Spygate, they got totally Eric Mangini told on them. He knew that they were spying, and he told the league about it. So they couldn't keep that secret.
There's at least there's some doubt about Deflategate, so they can have doubt about this buzzer. They can keep it forever. That being said, I mean, I'm not sure that Deep Throat and getting President Nixon impeached is in the same category as this particular sign stealing scandal.
It's one of the big all-time secrets.
All right. It is August 2nd, which means that there's 32 amazing teams in the NFL right now. There's hundreds of players who are about to become massive, massive stars. And one of my breakout stars is Jordan Love, the Packers quarterback. But now I'm hearing some sound from Packers camp, which is for the first time ever giving me some doubt about the Aaron Rodgers replacement.
Yeah, no, it's very frustrating. I think we're all pretty tired of it, but kudos to defense. But obviously, it's disappointing as offense. Collectively as a whole, it's definitely an area that we need to step up and figure out how we can turn that thing around.
Yeah, so that was Jordan Love, Packers quarterback. Apparently, the Packers offense is really struggling in camp. And then they're not the only team there. The offense is behind the defense. But there's an expectation that Jordan Love is going to fill the shoes of Aaron Rodgers. And I think the expectation comes from history, where Rodgers pretty quickly took over for Favre. And Jordan Love has had some nice moments when he's been on the field, these rare times. So me and a few other people think, Jordan Love could figure this out pretty quickly. He's had some experience now. He's coming into his 4th year. Now I'm a little nervous because there's a lot of reports that it's not working yet.
Yeah, I don't think that Jordan Love has like a ton of excuses for this thing to go really bad. Now, I don't know if anyone's expecting them to like be a deep playoff run kind of team. That would be surprising in a positive way. But when you've already been with the team for 2 seasons, right, and you have the playbook.
3. Isn't he coming into his 4th, or am I wrong? Is he coming
2021, 2022?
Oh, sorry. So this is his...
Yeah, so...
Oh, no, he was drafted in 20.
In 20, thank you.
So 20, 21, 22. So he's coming to his 4th year.
His 4th year. Thank you. Sorry about that. I just think that there's no excuse for you not to have full command. Now, whether the defense happens to be playing extra good in training camp or you guys aren't on the same page, now this is a time to work all that stuff out. But I'm not saying he has to step in and be Aaron Rodgers, just like Aaron Rodgers didn't have to step in and be Brett Favre right away. But it shouldn't be like we're watching a rookie out there.
Well, yeah, but I mean, is it the same if you're actually watching from the bench? He's also quite young. He's 24 years old. So
no, that's the point. That's why you draft these guys in the first round, is so that they can play when they're young. The Packers just ran into a situation with Rodgers where he kept winning MVPs and they kept paying him.
Well, no. My point was there's guys who come in the league at 20 and there's guys who come in the league at 20. Hendon Hooker's 25, going to be 26. Love came in really, really young. So he's still a lot younger than a lot of young quarterbacks.
24.
He's 24. And I don't think you can learn. I kind of disagree with what you were saying in the sense that I don't think you can learn by watching. I think the only way to really learn is to do it. So he might be able to recognize a defense from practice, but to actually be in a game pressure situation and do it is a different thing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is not what you want to hear, but at the same time, we really don't know much about Jordan Love, like in terms of how he interacts with the media. Is this just sort of how he is? Is he someone who, likes to, is not going to sugarcoat anything? Maybe this is just sort of his personality. Maybe he wants to point out flaws now so it gets everyone's attention. Maybe he doesn't want to. This could just be his style and personality. Like, hey, we're sick and tired of getting our butts kicked. Maybe he's trying to send a message to the rest of the guys. I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it could definitely
be. He's being pretty honest here.
But I don't. I've seen enough interviews with Jordan Love. Like he's like Mr. Sunshine. He is totally seems like one of those nice guy quarterbacks.
Okay, so then you should be alarmed. Then.
But also too, I don't think he was being brutal. I think he was just trying to maybe temper expectations a little bit, which is
good luck.
Something a coach should usually do. And maybe he was just being honest. I do think it's an interesting situation because they have great running backs to support him. Aaron Jones and Quadzilla, our guy A.J. Dillon.
A.J. Dillon, yeah.
Are really good. I think Dobbs and Christian Watson showed some promise. But I'm a pro Jordan Love. I'm saying right now I think he's going to be really good. There is a chance that this unit comes out there week 1 and looks like they don't know what they're doing. Yeah. I mean, it does take a lot to come together with young players.
Yeah, I think that the expectations, though, are pretty modest for them.
Yeah. So you think it's okay if they do have some growing pains?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think that also, considering all the first-round draft picks they've pumped into the defense, aren't you kind of expecting the defense is going to be pretty good?
But that's never worked. I mean, listen, they had the same first-rounders around Aaron Rodgers. They had Aaron Rodgers at quarterback and had the number 1 seed multiple years and couldn't do anything. So that defense, yes, they have all these guys, but they've always been a little disappointing. Unfortunately, Rashawn Gary got hurt, too. Their star pass rusher, but... Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they did a good job drafting all those defensive guys. But it's been a long time. They haven't drafted offense in years. Yeah. And still the defense isn't dominant. He does have support there. I think that, we say this, they can minimize his chance to make mistakes. Have him throw 24 times a game, not 44, and I think he'll be okay.
I mean, I think that has to be the plan, right? I don't think he's going to go out there and he's going to start throwing bombs all over the field.
We're going to get into Justin.
Running backs are like they help young quarterbacks.
Sometimes. It sounds good in theory. I don't know if that ever really happens.
I know, but you were just saying how it's great that he is Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon.
I was just trying to support my guy, Jordan Love.
There you go.
Later on, we're going to talk about all the money coming in for Justin Fields as MVP. Jordan Love actually fits the profile of MVP even closer than Justin Fields because Lamar Jackson sat behind Flacco for most of his rookie year, came in the second half. Then he came out and won MVP. Patrick Mahomes sat behind Alex Smith. Then he came out and won MVP. So Jordan Love,
the trend here.
If Jordan Love, there in theory should be a chance that he comes out and throws 45 touchdowns. I have to admit, I'd be surprised. But he is a profile, like he could be the big breakout that we're not really seeing.
I mean, I'd be surprised. I'd be shocked, quite frankly. But, at the end of the season, Romeo Doubs did start to, and Christian Watson kind of did start to show that they were growing on the job. So maybe the two receivers go into year 2 and they've taken a big step forward. If it wasn't for these bad quotes from Jordan Love, I'd probably be a little higher on the Packers, quite frankly. But he doesn't seem to be too high on them.
You know what Mahomes had?
Also, what's the LaFleur coach going to be like without Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think exactly. Patrick Mahomes had Andy Reid.
Yeah.
He had Tyreek Hill. He had inherited a team from Alex Smith that was playoff level.
Yeah, Kelsey.
And the Packers didn't even make the playoffs with Aaron Rodgers. Why is Jordan Love all of a sudden going to be better than Rodgers was last year?
Right.
So I think that does temper expectations. Yeah, I got to be honest. I was going to buy a Jordan Love jersey. These quotes maybe brought me down to earth a little bit. Like, oh, yeah, it's a lot. It takes a lot of hard work to make a really good offense in the NFL.
Wow.
Wait,
Jordan Love jersey.
Yeah. I feel like there's a show bet here somehow. Like Perloff has to buy a Jordan Love jersey if.
Well, listen.
Oh, man. I mean, honestly, we've got multiple show bets going on. Has anyone heard anything about Joe Burrow's contract? Because I got to be honest, I wake up every morning waiting for this thing to drop to determine whether or not it's going to be me or Perloff eating a bowl of Skyline chili
Burrow
with no
did
hands.
call me last night and say he's going to take less than the max. So,
by the way, if we are going to get a Jordan Love jersey, I also love my guy Jalen Hurts. We could put them next to each other, and that would give you Love Hurts. Yeah,
sitting on that one too. This is what he does. He comes up with these before the show and then guides the conversation to get to the dad joke.
I sure don't. That's not how dad jokes
player
work.
named Stinks. Love Hurts. Love Stinks.
No, Love Hurts. There's no player named Stinks. It's Jalen Hurts and Jordan Love. Love Hurts.
Mark Schlereth.
Yeah,
are we on speaking
terms? That's not Stinks. That's Stink. Love Stink.
He's not still mad at me, is he? You say one thing about an offensive line, and all of a sudden, everyone comes after you. Okay, coming up, the one big quarterback question that no one's asking. We are asking it, and we're answering it, too. Don't move. Maggie and Perloff.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie's been on vacation, and do you remember how headphones work, Maggie? I'm just curious here. Are you concussed right now? What just happened?
Oh, we caught on the live stream. Great. I'm like literally crying.
It looked like you were putting on your headphones and one flip on your ear and hit you in the face. Are you okay?
No, my eyes are like tearing because I hit myself in the face with the headphones. We'll find it and we'll put it out on social media.
Is it going to be a situation where you're going to have a black eye tomorrow and everyone's going to think you're making up? I was trying to put on my headphones.
Yeah, right. That's a bad excuse. Like something's going on at home. No, everything's fine.
Luckily, we have it on the live stream, so we don't have to worry about it.
My eyes, it's pretty bad, right? Getting hit in the face with the headphones.
No.
I know.
Do you need some ice? Do you want us to run and get you some ice?
No, I don't want anything. I want to hear this Kawhi Leonard theory.
They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
Welcome into the show. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. It is Rivalry Week here on the show, so we are doing greatest baseball rivalry of all time today and also greatest television show rivalry of all time. We've already done baseball. I have Dodgers-Giants. Perloff?
A little rivalry called the Yankees-Red Sox.
Heard of it. So you are welcome to vote on our polls at Maggie and Pearl on Twitter. Now, the whole baseball rivalry debate kind of devolved into another debate, which was going back a little bit. But did you actually think Jose Altuve had a buzzer on? Because I don't believe that. I think that's so ridiculous. We would have known by now if he had been wearing a buzzer in 2017.
Yeah, we do know. We would have known. But of course we know.
We don't know.
We haven't seen it, but we know.
All the Astros say no, Samter. And they all fessed up to the garbage can thing. So why wouldn't they fess up to any of the other stuff? When you got to, like, when the commissioner sits down and says, I'm going to grant you immunity, but you got to tell me everything, that's when you tell them everything.
Well, I don't think it's not necessarily about the facts of the case here as much as when you go out into the hallway and say, hey, do you think Altuve was wearing a buzzer? Most people are like, oh, yeah, why else would he have done that weird thing with his shirt? I think a lot of people think that. I'm not debating whether it was true or not. I will debate. I think a lot of people buy into that one, even more than the shilling bloody sock.
That's because they despise the Astros for cheating.
I have no dog in the fight here. I do not care about the Astros one way or the other.
80% of our audience.
I know.
I mean, it's not even close.
It's not even close.
I watched a video game. If whatever that tattoo excuse, something is going on there, and whatever Altuve is a known liar. So
they're all known liars,
right? So that's why I'm saying once a cheater, always a cheater. It could be anything.
But no one who switched teams, doesn't have a dog, someone who maybe got fired from the organization who could have an axe to grind.
No backup quarterback has ever come out and said Tom Brady deflated his footballs, but we all know he did that.
Well, that's because it was between him and the two equipment dudes.
So maybe Altuve had a small circle on that one. Possible.
Yeah, but I mean, if they found out about the garbage can, they're going to, okay.
Yeah, we know they were cheating, so at least they're in the realm of cheating. So at least it's possible. And you're saying totally impossible.
And it's also possible that maybe his teammates didn't know about it, and that's why he's like, hey, guys, don't
so
pull this
him and
off.
the video coordinator schemed up this thing, just the two of them?
Kind of like
you guys sound how ridiculous you guys are?
Oh, that's so ridiculous. Yeah. Dudes were in a garbage can.
I mean, come on.
I know.
Which sounds more realistic that an MLB player has a buzzer
system? We had a guy playing chess who had things up his whatever to get an edge.
But here's the thing.
Thank you for the technical term.
You're welcome. And I'm a doctor. And we found out about it. See, that's the thing. We found out about it.
There's so many things we haven't found out about. In baseball, especially. Baseball is like NASCAR. There's so much cheating going on. How many sign-stealing scandals do we not know about?
Well, it's not illegal if you aren't using technology.
Well, I'm sure illegal ones, okay. It's not illegal if you don't get caught. So often. Yeah, I mean...
Like if you're on second and you just happen to steal the signs. But anyway, they don't have that anymore because of the pitch comm. So it's a little.
You believe every sports conspiracy?
I do.
And do you know how much cheating goes on that isn't caught, Maggie? It's unbelievable, I'm sure.
Well, that's why I generally believe everything, but I do not believe
that's like everybody. Okay, and I'm getting way off track here. Everyone's getting up in arms about these DraftKings and FanDuel athletes betting. Do you know how many athletes have bet over the years? It's in the millions, not the thousands. Millions of professional and college athletes have bet on sports, and including their own teams over the years. Now they can track it, so it's a big deal. But it's something that's cheating always has happened.
Yeah, that one's a little different.
How is it different?
Well, because there is.
Do you think in 1995, player whatever at Florida, whatever school, wasn't betting on games? Of course he was. Betting is basically at its strongest on college campuses.
Well, here's why I think before you had the apps and stuff and before it was illegal in most states, I think that you are doing this through bookies and you're doing it through people who are like kind of shady, right? Like, so it could put you in a compromising position if you bet over your means, if you bet over your head.
Right, which has happened hundreds of times, yes.
Right. So now with the apps, why it's a little bit, so back then, I think it is really, it's crazy. The integrity of the game is at the center of it. I think it's a really huge deal. Now, I do think it's still a huge deal in college sports. But you're taking out the middleman of the shady character. And now it's all above board. It's all on the up and up, and guys are getting caught. And I can't believe, and again, now let's just go total left turn. I can't believe that a quarterback, a college football quarterback, got caught cheating. And that's what's happening with Ohio State right now. Excuse me, Iowa State, where the starting quarterback, when he was a backup, got caught cheating. And I thought what was fascinating about that is I think we always believe that the quarterbacks were ones who would not engage in this, right?
Wait, but why would a backup quarterback be one not to engage?
Well, because the scrutiny on you is always so much higher, because I think for the most part, guys, even if you're the backup at Iowa State, we just saw Brock Purdy, who was the starter at Iowa State, become a darling of the league. I think you think you're going to the pros. And why would you do something to jeopardize it?
I don't know. The backup quarterback at Iowa State? I don't know.
You've met these quarterbacks. You actually go out there to these camps. They all think they're going to the pros.
I'm sure this guy, if he's the backup at Iowa State, and also he was not good as a starter last year, he's probably a 3-star recruit. He's not, this is not the backup at Alabama.
No, I understand, but that doesn't matter. I mean, the person who is on the end of the bench playing basketball at Northwest East South State thinks that they're going to the pros. That's like part of the dream. So I always thought with quarterbacks, they wouldn't put themselves in harm's way like that.
I think, first of all, obviously Art Schleicher was very famously in harm's way with gambling.
Yeah.
I think, I understand what you're saying.
In this day and age.
If there's an NIL quarterback who's getting $1 million a year, yes, of course. But this guy probably had 0.0 NIL. In fact, I'm sure he had no NIL.
Okay, but the most he made was like less than $3,000, so he wasn't even making
the most he bet. He didn't
bet.
Even,
sorry, he's not getting life-changing money here.
So he's just a kid who was betting. It's happened forever, and it's going to continue to happen forever.
Okay, but he was also potentially using insider information because he was betting on his own games, wasn't he? And he was betting on other sports that were happening at Iowa State, where in theory you'd think that he could have access to information that other people don't.
I mean, that I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. But
it's a big deal.
You know when the outside happened in college sports? Every year since they invented college sports.
So they just
going back to 1936.
So we should all bury our head in the sand and we shouldn't try to root it out? Like, what's your point?
My point is, it's just like we were talking about Jose Altuve.
Yeah.
Cheating has gone on forever. There's just, we don't even begin to understand the scope of what actually is happening. So to say that Jose Altuve never could have done this because no one's come out and proven that he was wearing a wire, that I don't buy that statement because there's been so much cheating that we don't even know about. You said it yourself, with gambling, now it's above board. We're catching these guys.
Yeah.
Forever, we were not catching these guys. These guys were all cheating left and right.
I think that, like, just going through the actual X's and O's of putting a buzzer on and having somebody buzz you and all that stuff, like, it would be impossible that someone wouldn't let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah, but I think that's probably happened.
It's It's too involved.
I'll bet you there's been buzzers.
But you don't know because we've never heard of it. So it's only a theory.
But we've never heard of the Apple Watches till somebody got caught with that. I think,
but
we
got caught.
Yeah, but there's this where we're discreet. There's probably for those 3 things that got caught, probably 300 that haven't gotten caught in video sign stealing.
I don't know. Seems like a high number. Speaking of cheaters, Bill Belichick. Sorry. Not a good transition.
Geez, for everything he's gotten caught for,
sorry.
There's 5,000 things he's probably done.
So make sure to put that on Miami Reel. Bill Belichick, speaking of cheating. So Belichick, though, was talking about his quarterback competition, or at least he believes it's a competition between Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi.
Everybody's out here competing. It's all 90 guys. Yeah, that's what we're all here for. Just go out and compete.
So Mac Jones isn't necessarily your weak
Everybody's out here competing. Like, everybody's out here competing. That's what everybody's doing.
We asked Mac the other day how his relationship, is it good with you? And he said, I think so. I'm just curious, what's your characterization of your relationship?
My relationship's good with every player.
Classic Belichick here. And this is where Belichick loses me. I respect him so much. He kicked my team's butt for 20 years. I respect him so much. But here's where he loses me. The Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi are in a competition. And listen, he would have said this about Brady and Brian Hoyer. And that's where he loses me. This is eyewash. This is not real. Yes, you like to foster competition, but when you are in the pros, Perloff, guys know what each other's contracts are like. Guys know where other guys have been drafted and what slot they're in. They understand that this is all... It's not real. And that's why sometimes when Belichick assistants try to do this in other places, they don't have the cachet of the 6 rings, and it falls flat because they try to pull this Belichick thing. And I think Belichick kind of barely gets away with it, and he's had so much success. It's just like Mac Jones is the starter. He's a first-round pick that you personally selected. It's great to have him think that Bailey Zappi is breathing down his neck, but we all know that's just not the case.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree that Bill Belichick says everybody's in competition. He would have said it to Brady and Hoyer, but this is a little different in the sense that Mac Jones and Zappi have to be pretty close. Because Zappi played in limited action last year. It was really good. He had a couple games where he was great. He played 4 games. 2 of them were awesome, and the last game he struggled.
Who were they against?
So he blew out Detroit. He lost his first game. He came in against Green Bay, but played okay. Then they won 29-0 over Detroit, and he was awesome.
Right.
Then they won 38-15 at Cleveland. and he was amazing. Then they lost in Chicago. He had a bad game. He didn't really have a totally terrible game, but he threw 2 picks that cost the team. So, yeah, I mean, listen, Mac Jones definitely struggled last year. And Bailey Zappi was like, ooh, this is
So you think this is a real quarterback competition?
Yeah, I think it's got to be close. I think Mac's going to have a short leash this year, for sure. Because Bailey Zappi was a 4th rounder, but he was, first of all, that's kind of high for a quarterback. It's not like he was a 7th rounder. And he had a huge college career. I think Bailey Zappi's going to be a starter in the NFL at some point, at least get a chance. And I don't think that's a huge stretch. So Mac Jones really struggled last year. Right. There's no doubt. And his first year, he was pretty good. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a guarantee. I know it's a better situation because he has a real offensive coordinator. I don't think it's a guarantee that Mac Jones is going to make it. I think Zappi could get a look here. And if Zappi doesn't get a look here, Zappi's probably going to get a look somewhere at some time. He's big, too.
Maybe as a high-end backup. I don't see – listen.
I mean, a 4th-round quarterback, they usually will get a shot at some point.
Do they?
Yeah, most of them. I mean, at least a shot to start. I mean, yeah, some game
just because they're backups and the quarterback – gets hurt.
Yeah, I mean,
not because they're signed to all of a sudden be the starter.
4th round is pretty. I'd be curious if you look at the history of 4th round. At least they get a shot somewhere. I mean, listen, look who's going to be starting this year. It's
no,
gonna be like,
I know.
You were talking about Brian Hoyer,
but like the fact that
and
Sam Howell is going to be starting is not like that. That's like we couldn't believe it when Ron Rivera told us that at first, right?
Well, yeah.
Or like the Matt Corrals. I don't even remember exactly which round these guys were, but you know what I'm saying.
Right, like Kirk Cousins.
I know, and Kirk Cousins only got an opportunity because RG3 got hurt.
Well, everybody gets hurt, so these guys all get it. I think Zappi's going to start in this league. Do you think that's a crazy take? I mean, Bailey Zappi, 4th. If the Patriots take you in the 4th round, you're going to get a chance at some point.
I mean, they took Garoppolo in the 2nd round, and Garoppolo never got a chance for the Patriots. He got shipped out.
I think we're seeing something different, though, in the NFL, whether it's Trey Lance or Dwayne Haskins or Josh Rosen. It doesn't matter where you get picked. If there's another guy on your roster who's better than you, and Belichick is the prime guy who's going to do this. If someone is better than this guy, he's going to start. I don't care where you're drafted. Look at Russell Wilson and the Matt Flynn thing. They signed this big free agent, and Russell Wilson came in. If you win the job, and especially a quarterback, if you're just better, I don't care where you're drafted, you're going to play.
Right, so if Bailey Zappi was better, he'd be playing. But who do you think starting week 1 for the Patriots?
I think it's whoever's better during camp. If it's close, I think Mac Jones.
I'll save you the trouble. It's going to be Mac Jones.
I don't think Belichick cares about that where he picked him thing. I don't think Belichick's super concerned about that.
And didn't have to trade up to get him or anything. He just was there. It's different. The 49ers traded up for Lance, and they're still putting him 3rd on the depth chart.
Yeah, but that's because he can't, he keeps getting hurt, first of all, and, can't play, and then has no experience. And so it just keeps, begetting on itself, right? It's like you're not playing, and now you're hurt, and you have no experience, and you're not winning the job in training camp. At least Trey Lance is not.
Well, here's the thing.
I don't think. I think that Mac Jones is really going to get a shot here.
Yeah, but I mean, if they falter, though, would you be shocked if Mac Jones lost his job in Week 10 or something?
I'm wondering if Mac Jones falters, though. Do you think that Bailey Zappi is going to come in and be able to do much better? I think if Mac Jones falters, it's because something is inherently going on with the offense.
Right, but I feel like Zappi will be a new look. A breath of fresh air, kind of like he was last year. Remember, there was Zappy Mania last year?
Yeah.
Why not?
Would you say you're Zappy curious?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people. Bailey Zappi was very interesting last year. He completed 70% of his passes, threw 5 touchdowns, 3 picks in 4 games. I think he's really close to the all-time leading passer in college football history. He's an interesting guy.
I think he broke the record when he was there. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's got this.
Where was he? At Western Kentucky, right?
Yeah, and he's got this great name. There was talk. There was a lot of talk about draft that Bailey Zappi could go in the 2nd or 3rd round. He fell in the 4th. Who knows? I mean, listen, Mac Jones. Talking about 3-star recruit. Nobody thought Mac Jones was going to be a big-time quarterback ever. He just sort of lucked into this position at Alabama, and from there, it's been hot and cold in New England. That's all I'll say.
Well, and he hasn't helped himself with some of the, what we found out after the fact, right? Going outside the building, trying to ask. Well, I didn't even think it was that bad. Asking advice to the Alabama coaches when you're struggling in the NFL, to me, that was not that's not such a big affront to Belichick.
I mean, honestly, if you put these 2 guys out on the field and said who's the 1st round pick, I think most people say, oh, Zappi is, because Mac Jones looks closer to Brock Purdy. Mac Jones looks like a Mr. Irrelevant. I'm sorry, I'm being shallow here, but just eyeing. Yeah, I mean, Mac Jones is not a physical specimen at quarterback. That is no secret to anybody, right?
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Okay, rivalry week here on the show. We're already getting some great suggestions here from our chat, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio. So we did greatest baseball rivalry of all time, and now we're doing greatest TV show rivalry of all time. So one sports rivalry, one non-sports rivalry every single day this week. So we already did baseball. We're going to do TV shows next. You want to watch the show again, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio. And don't forget, if you ever miss the show, you can always download the Maggie and Perloff podcast. If you give us a 5-star review, we'd be so grateful. We're back in a minute. Greatest TV rivalries. Don't move.
You're in a 5-minute break. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. Minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
This portion of the show is sponsored by the United States Postal Service. Introducing USPS Ground Advantage. Reliable and affordable 2 to 5 day package shipping. United States Postal Service. All right. The great sports debate continues. We started with baseball today. I did Yankees Red Sox. Maggie did
Dodgers Giants.
All right. Let's have a little fun here. Get into the TV world. The greatest TV show rivalries.
The Great Debate Series. Best Rivalries.
Okay, I'll start us off. It's two men, but it's also TV show rivalries because it takes a lot of people to put on a show. And that, of course, is Jay Leno versus David Letterman.
It's a great one.
Started when Johnny Carson announced he was going to retire. There was a big debate about who was going to take over The Tonight Show. Old friends Jay Leno and David Letterman battled it out behind the scenes. There's a great movie called Late Shift about this fight. As you probably know, Jay Leno eventually won the job. Letterman ended up going to CBS. They battled in the ratings for years. At first, Letterman had him, and then Leno had this interview that took him over the top.
Let me start with question number one. What the hell were you thinking?
Yeah. I think you know in life what's a good thing to do and what's a bad thing. And I did a bad thing. And
as you know, the Hollywood community was shocked to learn that this type of thing was going on, right?
That was Hugh Grant in the Watershed interview for Jay Leno. I can't remember. I should have looked this up. Hugh Grant, he did something bad. It was involving...
He got caught with a prostitute.
Yeah.
While he was married to Elizabeth Hurley.
Oh, right. He was married.
Right. Hugh Grant basically gave Jay Leno the big W in this because I don't think he ever let go of the ratings. He was always number one throughout most of it. Letterman, of course, is, many people's favorite of all time as well. But those guys going back and forth, that was real legitimate rivalry in the sense that I think they had issues with each other. And I also believe that, they were kind of contrasting styles, which is a great part of a rivalry as well. So to me, that's the greatest TV show rivalry, at least that I know of in my lifetime.
It's a great one, but I think I can top it. But the greatest TV show rivalries is actually between two shows who are on the same network, were aired on the same night, and were aired back-to-back with each other, and that's Friends versus Seinfeld. Because in the 90s, these were the two biggest comedies in the United States. And they were so neck and neck on so many different things. It's like, are you a Seinfeld person or are you a Friends person? Kind of determine what sort of humor do you like. Because Seinfeld was written a certain way, and then Friends was a little glossier, a little bit more of obviously the bigger ensemble cast. And they were also darlings in terms of awards. Seinfeld, 10 Emmys, 68 nominations. Friends, 6 Emmy wins, 62 nominations. Now, Seinfeld did have more viewers, but overall, across their entire run, Seinfeld averaged 26.6 million viewers per episode, where Friends averaged 23.6 million. So it's not like they were so far apart. The critics generally like Seinfeld more, but also now that the streaming wars have taken over, these two are still battling it out because streaming services can't wait to get a hold of them. So HBO Max paid $425 million for the rights to Friends, and Netflix came in and paid $500 million for the entire catalog of Seinfeld. So they're still battling, and they've given us iconic scenes like this from Seinfeld.
I met this lawyer. We went out to dinner. I had the lobster bisque. We went back to my place. Yada, yada, yada. I never heard from him again.
But you yada yada over the best part.
No, I mentioned the bisque.
And that could be your cup of tea, or if you love Friends, then you love this.
We were on a break. We were on a break. We were on a break.
So either way, you're either one or the other, though. And maybe in streaming, people have found both. But I found I was staunchly a Seinfeld person. I barely know what that "we're on a break" even means. Something about Rachel and Ross. But I don't know Friends like I know Seinfeld, or I can quote every episode. There you go.
Totally disagree. Totally disagree. There were, 29 million viewers on Seinfeld and 25 in Friends?
26 and 23, yeah.
Right. Guess what the 23 million who were watching Friends just watched? Seinfeld. You didn't watch one or the other. You watched both. And everyone I know watched both.
I didn't.
I don't know what you guys are talking about because, first of all, they were both, you can't be rivals. Like, Friends got its success because it built off Seinfeld. They were, Friends owes everything to Seinfeld. There was no rivalry.
But Friends actually did keep it up after Seinfeld went off the air. So,
right, but Seinfeld was the build. And when they built Friends, they're like, all right, let's make a younger, prettier Seinfeld. And let's put it on right after.
In the apartment.
Friends, kind of like it's like Rome and the Maggie and Perloff show. We're not rivals. Friends 100% built off of Seinfeld. The other thing too is I disagree with you two on contrasting styles. Like, I know lots of people like Friends and Seinfeld. If I understand, like, everybody loves Raymond and the CBS shows or the ABC shows, those were way different than the NBC shows. But the NBC shows were basically the same writers behind the scenes, and Friends was kind of like Seinfeld light. It wasn't totally different. It's not like Leno and Letterman, very contrasting styles. Friends was basically a Seinfeld ripoff, wasn't it?
No,
I don't think so. I don't think
what? Not even close.
Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld, the humor for Seinfeld and Friends. Do you even know who the writers are? Like,
well, yeah. I mean, it's Crane.
Yeah,
they always put
Kaufman,
the three.
Crane, whatever. Yeah. But like, the point of view on Seinfeld, to me, was super obvious, right? It was misunderstandings, neuroses, a show about nothing.
Oh, misunderstanding, neuroses. What do you think Friends was?
Well, that was one of the characters, but that's not Joey Tribbiani. Like, that wasn't. They had more traditional character arcs. Like, the thing about Seinfeld is that the characters never changed and never learned.
Yeah.
That's not what happened on Friends, from what I understand. They were in different relationships with each other. They did kind of change and evolve. That never happened on Seinfeld. That was the point.
So growing up, I was all about Seinfeld. I never watched Friends, and I would argue with my friends, and oftentimes it was like guy versus girl. The guys all watch Seinfeld, the girls all watch Friends, and we would like fight each other verbally, just like, how could you not like Seinfeld? How could you not like Friends? Friends was like that kind of cheesy sitcom with the canned laugh, where Seinfeld was like intelligent, these like comedians throwing out these like absolutely like deep thinking kind of silly situations that make you actually have to like have conversations with your friends about these things. Now, as I've gotten older, me and my wife actually watch Friends all the time, and I like it. It's very funny, but it's super cheesy. Seinfeld was not cheesy. Seinfeld was brilliant. Friends is fun, it's mindless, and it's enjoyable, but there was a battle. My friends, you either liked one or the other. There was no either or.
Now,
I got to tell you, my friends was like, everybody watched Seinfeld, everybody watched Friends. Because Friends was like had the same like comedy bones as Seinfeld, the same actors, like same like. All the funny people came through Friends as guest stars or something. Like, it was super funny. The CBS ABC shows were like kind of the cheesy sitcoms. Friends was 100% Seinfeld like. They admitted, like, we stole Seinfeld. We both put a bunch of friends in an apartment in New York and called it a day.
I think it's a big rivalry because I didn't watch both, and I still haven't watched both. So,
I feel like you're like kind of like, oh, I was too cool to watch Friends. Like, Friends wasn't like that. Like, Friends was popular.
I don't think I was too cool to like it. I just didn't watch it. I watched Seinfeld and didn't watch Friends. Because I watched Frasier and I watched some of the other NBC shows.
No, Frasier, that's not good.
It actually won more awards than Seinfeld and Friends.
I'm very well aware of that. Yeah, that is there's a lot of people who wonder Simpsons never won Best Emmy and Frasier won, or Best Show and Best Sitcom, and Frasier won like 11 times. Anyone who thinks that Frasier is funnier than Simpsons should have their head examined.
Yeah, I'm not one of those people.
But I think Friends, I think everybody who watched, logistically, I think everybody who watched Seinfeld and watched Friends, I think they were the same exact people.
No,
so I know
people
like
are Seinfeld people or Friends people, and that might change in the streaming. Now that they're both so readily available, like Mike said, he and his wife went back and watched it. But I think at the time, you kind of were one or the other. You preferred one or the other.
But you have to admit, logistically, they were the same viewers. It had to be.
No, I disagree.
I don't think it was.
No,
So you're saying people left NBC, they were a whole new audience for Friends that came on right after Seinfeld.
I think there's certainly people who tried to give Friends a chance after Seinfeld and just, this isn't my type of show. And then there are people who, yes, they watched Seinfeld, got into Friends, and then they liked Friends more and were like, this is more my thing than Seinfeld, and then became Friends people.
I don't think so.
My family, my dad, has never seen an episode of Friends. He will quote you Seinfeld to the day he dies. Because that was his thing. He loved it. He connected to it.
See, that's the thing, too. Like, so Dan is in the chat, says, George is getting upset. You know, we had Papa saying it was shrinkage. I'm getting all the Seinfeldisms back to me. I don't have a Friendsism. Like, it is different. They landed different at the time. And now I think it's still debatable. Like, you know, what's the greatest comedy sitcom of all time? I think people... I mean, maybe you can put more. If you open it up, you can put the Jeffersons and all these other ones in there. But...
I think you're going to Simpsons versus Always Sunny, and that's the only two that I would put in that list. But wait, but I would argue, I think you could, I'll bet you a TV historian would say no two shows in the history of television had more common viewers than Friends, Seinfeld. Because they built, you know.
Well, just because they were literally.
That must-see TV thing was a big deal. And time slot, and NBC knew it was going to be similar demographics. I think they had the same demographics, young people with like sort of a leaning towards New York. So I'll bet you they had 20 million common viewers, which is very rare.
But that doesn't mean there wasn't a rivalry. Either.
Could easily be a rivalry, definitely. But they definitely, like, Friends exists because of Seinfeld.
But I don't think that Seinfeld necessarily had a young audience. Like, my dad loved Seinfeld.
Yeah, but they got...
Act probably loved Seinfeld. But
they got similar... I'm sure they had the same audiences. I'll bet you anything they did. Because NBC, like, kind of scientifically did this.
Brian says Simpsons versus Family Guy is another one. We get Family Matters versus Step by Step.
We got those South Park in there also.
South Park versus Simpsons? South Park versus... What?
I think the three of them, South Park, Family Guy, Simpsons. But
yeah, I mean, they all acknowledge they ripped off Simpsons. South Park famously said,
South Park
we got it all from Simpsons.
Incredible full episode of just about how everything was ripped off.
There's a lot of like hospital shows and cop shows that were exactly the same.
A little ER and Chicago Hope.
Wait, one quick thing. Do you guys see the commonality between Friends and Seinfeld? I actually read a lot about this. Friends was designed to be just a little bit more user-friendly Seinfeld. So they were like, as Larry David said, they made pretty people. They made Seinfeld, but with pretty people, called it Friends, right? So 6 people in an apartment, 4 people in an apartment. It's kind of similar, no?
Well, I mean, isn't that also why it could be a rivalry?
Yeah, they totally could. But
so that's why I think.
But I don't think they're very different shows. And my recollection of the '90s was everybody watched both shows. But I could be wrong.
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. All right, so coming up, we're treated because someone who was on the front lines of one of these big TV show rivalries is going to join us next. What was it like to be in this day after day? We'll talk to him next after this CBS Sports Update. Here is Rich Ackman.
Sports Flag.
Well, teams are now set in baseball for the stretch run. The Braves added some relief help. Certainly didn't need it today. They seem like a well-oiled machine right now as the Braves crush the Angels 12-5, getting home runs from Ronald Acuna Jr. and Austin Riley, both hitting their 25th, and Matt Olson hitting his 37th. They now have an 11.5-game lead in the National League East. The Tigers defeated the Pirates by a score of 6-3. Riley Green and Jake Rogers with home runs in the victory there. Right now, top of the 8th, it's Houston looking to move into a first-place tie in the American League West, leading Cleveland by a score of 3-2. Chas McCormick with a pair of homers. He now is 15 on the season. Boston and Seattle are scoreless in the bottom half of the second. In the National League, Juan Soto with his 23rd home run of the season, and the Padres now have a 3-1 lead over Colorado in the bottom of the 5th. Ha-Seong Kim led off the game with his 15th of the season, and Washington edged Milwaukee by a score of 3-2. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Summer is officially here, but CBS Sports Radio never goes on vacation. We'll keep you company all season long with the most entertaining content and all the breaking news you need to know. Keep us locked in on your local Odyssey affiliate, Sirius XM Channel 158, or the free Odyssey app. CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to Maggie and Perloff. It is rivalry week on the show, so we're doing one sports and one non-sports rivalry each day, Perloff. So today we're doing baseball rivalries, of which you took
Yanks, Red Sox.
You would. I took Dodgers, Giants. And TV shows is our non-sports rivalry. Yeah. You took?
So I took the Letterman versus Leno feud.
And I took Seinfeld versus Friends. And to get the perspective of somebody who was actually there and part of one of these rivalries, we're so pleased now to be joined by Eric Stangel, who is an Emmy award-winning writer, comedian, producer, showrunner, and he and his brother, Justin, they were the showrunners for the David Letterman show, amongst many other things on his incredible resume. And Eric joins us now. Thank you so much for the time, Eric. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. It's really a pleasure to talk to you guys again.
No, this is great. I know the last time you joined us, we were talking about your Chargers fandom, which we'll get to in a moment. But because we're talking about rivalries here, you were there for the Letterman and Leno rivalry. What was it like to live it every day?
So there were always things that would come up in the newspapers and on TV. Like Andrew said, there was every move was being watched, and there were books written about it, and people actually cared about like who was ahead now and who had the better guess then. But I have to say, like, working at the show, we were focused on David Letterman's Late Show. Like, nobody would walk around saying, "Did you see what Leno did last night?" That might have been different for the people that booked the guests, but as far as comedy on the show, we were kind of competing against ourselves. When I started working there, it was in 97, and the show had been on for 12 years already. So we were just trying to come up with stuff that was good enough to pitch to Dave that hadn't been done before. Like somebody would come up with an idea we would think was hilarious. We would like put it in pitch form, get ready to go, and then there was a guy who had like the records of everything would say, "Well, no, they did that in 84, and then they did that in 92.
Oh, no.
Like, come on. But there definitely was a rivalry. In fact, you guys played that clip before, and that really was when Leno became number one after that with the "What the Hell Were You Thinking" clip. And then
the interview with Hugh Grant. Yep.
With Hugh Grant. And I remember 2 years later, we came into work one day as at 53rd and Broadway, and people were freaking out because you could look out the window and maybe like 6 or 7 blocks away, all of a sudden overnight, it was put up a giant billboard of Jay Leno's face, and it said #1 in late night. And we're like, God damn it. and so it's getting calls from Page 6 and from the Daily News, and because people really cared about all this stuff. And it's like, what's Letterman going to do? And it's a shot across the bow. The executive producer at the time had the best idea, which was the next day we put up a billboard on the other side of the street, which is it's facing the same direction. So on the left it said Jay Leno #1 in late night, and on the right it said Dave Letterman #3 in late night. And we just you want to screw with us? We're gonna have a better joke than you. So it was great. It was up for a long time, and yeah, I felt good about that.
Eric, I have a sort of a history question. Going back, I've heard people say that Jay Leno in the 70s, when him and Letterman were coming up as stand-ups, was irreverent and sort of a comic. And then the shows seemed the opposite, where Leno was more mainstream and Letterman was more irreverent. Was there sort of a flip-flop there?
I think it was a strategy. I do think that, like, the Tonight Show when Carson had it appealed to everybody. Like, he purposely didn't make it. He made political jokes, but it was about both sides, and so that appealed to everyone. And Leno very much did the same thing, because if you just stick to one side, you're gonna alienate half your audience. Leno and Dave started out at the Comedy Store together in L.A., and Leno was on the old Late Night with David Letterman all the time, and he was a great guest, and they were really funny together. But I think Jay sort of eased into the Leno that he became when he was doing the Tonight Show, and he was just, "Oh, shucks, it's me, Jay Leno." and he wore denim all the time for some reason.
He loves that. He loves the denim on top and the denim on the bottom, and that's how you know he's the everyman. Eric Stangel is joining us. He's a former showrunner for David Letterman. We're talking about the greatest television rivalries of all time, and of course, Letterman and Leno, as Perloff has chosen them as the #1 rivalry. We're getting a little vibe of what it was like on the front lines. Do you think that you mentioned about Letterman and Leno and coming up together in L.A. comedy scene in the 70s, but did they like each other when you were working with Dave? What was the relationship, do you think, like between them?
I think they both were extremely competitive, obviously, and I do think it was a healthy competition. They both wanted to be #1, and I think, but at the same time, there's a famous story that there was one year that at CBS we had the Super Bowl, and so they gave us a 30-second promo during the Super Bowl, which is huge for us because that's a gigantic audience, and it's like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And so we're like, do we get president? We wanted to do something with George W. Bush because Dave was going in on him every single night for stuff he was doing. It would have been great to have a promo with him. President said no. This was when Conan had been forced off the Tonight Show. We're like, Conan O'Brien would be great to do it with. He couldn't do it. So Dave had the idea to do the promo for the Super Bowl with Oprah and Jay Leno, and they both said yes, but the stipulation was that the whole thing had to be a secret. And so only a few people at the show knew that this was going to be shot. So a few weeks before the Super Bowl, there was one night after we taped the show, there was a set built, and nobody knew what it was for, but everybody knew that we were taping something very quickly. And a limousine showed up outside, and Oprah showed up with a hoodie on, and nobody knew it was her. She went in, nobody saw her. And then apparently Jay Leno came in a disguise. I don't know what that meant, but he did show up in a disguise. And so people were on the set. I knew who was coming. The director knew who was coming. A couple other people knew, but not everybody did. And Oprah comes to the set, and she's sitting there. And then Jay Leno walks out, and you hear people go, like he broke into the set. It's like, well, no. And one of the stagehands came over to me, and he said, Eric, you want me to do something about him? And I'm like, what are you going to do? Go beat him up? He's not here to steal our jokes. He's the guy in the thing. And so we shot a piece with him, and we held the secret, and then it was pretty good. Find it online.
I don't want to waste your time on this debate because it's obviously, not necessarily your specialty, but we are totally on different pages here. I do not remember the 90s a Friends-Seinfeld rivalry. I felt like everyone I knew, a lot of people watched the same shows and they built off each other. They were on the same network. How do you remember those two shows?
I remember it. I don't remember it as much of a rivalry as it is now. I remember they got huge numbers. It was only kind of after the fact when everything was in rerun, to my recollection, where people were like, I'm a Friends person, I'm a Seinfeld person. And, yeah, so, they were both huge shows. And, by the way, you were talking about Frasier before. Even though you guys don't like it, I looked it up. It got a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is, it's still an all-time show. NBC had these huge shows. And now networks barely have sitcoms anymore. And nothing's in production. So we got to get back to doing good shows.
I know.
Getting fair deals for the writers and the actors, and let's get that done.
Well, definitely. As a consumer of all of your incredible content, we're hoping that the writers and the actors can, come to an agreement, something that's fair for them, so that we can get our great shows back. Okay, last one for you. Just have a couple minutes left, but you're a massive L.A. Chargers fan. I mean, you've really been with them, Eric, through thick and thin.
No, just thick.
I was going to say, or how do you put that? Or just thin? I don't know. But it's
thin, but it's not both.
It's definitely not. It's been a lot of down times. Do you feel like this is finally the year for the Chargers?
As I say every year, this is finally the year. I mean, I actually think they're one of the teams that just has to get to the postseason. I used to worry about how are they going to win the division, how are they going to do that. They just have to be healthy enough. There was somebody came up with a metric last season of the most injured teams, and like everybody was fairly close together, and then the Chargers were way above everybody else. Like
you lead the league in something.
Yeah, right. They have trouble putting on their pants. I think they need to bring in somebody to show them how to put their uniform on properly. But I really do think that the window is really, really small right now. They got a bunch of guys who are getting paid like over $20 million a year, and there will be cap casualties next year. Like, you can't have Mike Williams and Keenan Allen and Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack and, obviously the big number for Justin Herbert and Austin Eckler. They're not going to pay him. So I feel like they have all these guys now. They better get it done, or else, like, I'm at the point where I'm calculating how much time I have left on the earth and how many seasons are left. Because you take that for granted and then you don't win, and you're like, oh my God.
Maggie's a Bills fan.
Yeah,
she relates to that 100%.
I've done that math.
Yeah,
It's not pretty.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Well, I mean, yeah. So you and I are kind of the same here.
I know.
It's going to happen this year for the Bills, right?
No, because it's never going to happen.
You're doing the reverse jinx.
Can I suggest something, Eric? You should try what I do as an Eagles fan. Win one, then everything is easier.
Yeah, thanks, Perloff.
I need that. I'm trying. What else do I have to do?
Eric, thank you so much for doing this. We appreciate it. We hope that you guys are back to work very soon and that the writer's strike is resolved. But thanks so much for walking down memory lane with us about the Letterman Show.
You guys are the best. Thank you so much.
So much. And we are like out of time. We're up against the top of the hour, but our break at the top of the hour. And we didn't get a chance to talk about Eric writing for Norm Macdonald on Weekend Update and all the show Harry Connick Jr.'s daytime show. I mean, so many, writing for Billy Crystal at the Oscars.
Yeah, that was a great story about Oprah coming in a hoodie.
Well, and Dave used to go after Oprah a little bit. You know,
he did?
That was a rivalry, sure.
Oh, actually, I did not know that. But
he used to make fun of her a little bit.
I've gotten the honor of going with Dan to Letterman 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
And you go in that back alley. I know where all the paparazzi are. And they barely take a picture of Dan. So the guys will look at me like, who are you? I'm like, nobody.
Oh, you're somebody.
Oh, to them? Like, honestly, they were like, Dan Patrick, that's pretty cool. But they're like waiting for Oprah type people behind Letterman.
That's crazy. I wonder what Super Bowl that was. We'll have to go back and find it.
He said it. Did he say 2010, I want to say? It was, right around the Conan controversy. We could check it out.
Yeah, can't wait to look at that. Okay, very cool. Eric Stangel joining us. That's awesome. Coming up, the one quarterback who's getting bet on the most to win MVP. We're going to give you a hint. He's going into his 3rd year. Young guy. Get the answer and whether we think that's right. Coming up next, don't move. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
My summer is going to be ruined. They're going to put a pin in my right pinky, so I'm not going to be able to do anything for about 4 weeks.
Do you think you could live stream your pinky surgery?
Does anyone know? Am I unconscious for that?
No, that's a local anesthesia. When I got my wisdom teeth, I was actually living in New York City. Usually you're supposed to have someone come meet you at the doctor's office once you're under general anesthesia.
I like where this is going.
Yes, but I was alone. I didn't have anyone to come, so they were like, oh, we'll just get you a taxi cab. And I don't know what I told the guy about where I lived, but all of a sudden, I'm seeing the numbers getting higher and higher and higher. I lived all the way downtown. They had to go all the way around, and he dropped me off. I had him drop me off at a supermarket, and I bought God knows what.
Ice cream.
Yeah, ice cream.
That sounds like a good time.
La-di-da.
They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
Welcome into the show. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff, Rivalry Week here on the show. Today we're doing the greatest baseball rivalry of all time and also the greatest TV show rivalry of all time. If you just missed it, Eric Stangel, who is the former showrunner for David Letterman, who Perloff has Letterman versus Leno as his greatest TV show rivalry.
Yeah, it's the greatest one I can remember.
It's amazing. I put Seinfeld and Friends, but if you missed Eric Stangel, you can always download the Maggie and Perloff podcast. He tells an amazing story about what it was like behind the scenes during this rivalry and also how Dave Letterman and Jay Leno ended up in a Super Bowl commercial together, which was very, very cool. Okay. Perloff, believe it or not, the one quarterback who is getting quote-unquote insane action to win the MVP this year, none other than Justin Fields. Now, I was surprised by this, but according to PointsBet, Justin Fields is currently the sportsbook most bet-on player to win the award. He's receiving 19% of all MVP bets they've taken so far. This is more than double any other player to win the award besides Jalen Hurts. Fields has more MVP bets than Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Justin Herbert combined.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Do you remember last year we did this story and Jalen Hurts was in the Justin Fields position that Hurts was like 40-1 and the money was pouring in on him and the odds went way up? You're not going to pick Mahomes at 7-1 because what are you going to really win there? You got to go with a long shot. And the MVP award is one that often comes out of nowhere. Mahomes came out of nowhere. Lamar Jackson came out of nowhere. Last year, Hurts would have come out of nowhere if he had won it. He got hurt right when he was the favorite in December. So I think it's a very common thing. I think voters are a little tired of Patrick Mahomes. I think Mahomes is going to have to really, really dominate this year to get it again.
Oh, that's funny. I don't see a fatigue with Mahomes yet. Because,
I feel like it's like the Jordan LeBron fatigue.
But I don't see it yet with Mahomes because it's not like he's won 5. I mean, he's won 2 MVPs.
I don't think, by the way, I think if Hurts had gone all the way through last year, and I think he probably would have beaten Mahomes because he was a new story. People love the new story.
People do love the new story, but in the absence of someone really blowing the award away, I think that Mahomes will probably be the guy who ends up getting the award unless someone else has this like standout. Like I don't think that the voters are going out of their way not to vote for Mahomes if there's not somebody else who like barges into the conversation and really takes a hold of it. I think that they would continue to give it to Mahomes because I don't see Mahomes' numbers dropping off anymore. Here's I'm trying to think of what would have to happen for Justin Fields to win this award. And that means that the Bears would have to be easily double-digit wins.
Yeah.
Do we think that the Bears are going from 2 wins to 10 wins? That's a lot. Was it 2 wins or 3 wins last year?
I thought it was 3, but I'm not sure.
Whatever. The worst record in the league because they had the number 1 overall pick and they traded it to the Carolina Panthers. Usually teams don't do jumps like that. You usually can, yes, you can see people go in the division from worst to first. I get it. But you generally see an increase of wins, like maybe 3 wins or 4 wins. Not you're going to get 7 more wins. And I don't think if he doesn't get to double-digit wins, I don't think he's winning the award.
So let's see, Jalen Hurts.
They were a playoff team his first year.
He was 9-8 2 years ago.
Or, excuse me, his second year.
Then he improved to 14-1 as a starter. So that's a 5 game. You're right. I mean, it'd be a huge jump. And Lamar Jackson actually didn't jump up that much. He took over a really good Ravens team, and they were unbeatable the next year. Now, the only thing I could argue is Fields could do a Lamar Jackson type season. Lamar won it his second year as a pro. He threw 36 touchdowns, which is a lot, but they never ran in any touchdowns. He only had 3,100 passing yards. Fields can get that. He had 66% completion percentage. Fields can get that. And Fields is the only quarterback in the league who can really run like Lamar Jackson. He almost beat his record last year. So I think he can recreate the 2019 Lamar Jackson, possibly. That's his route. And then they have to miraculously win a lot of games. You're right. I agree with you. It's going to be too hard to get the wins.
I just don't see it getting there. The other part, too, is how many yards you say you had to throw for?
So 3,100 for Lamar.
Okay, so Fields threw for 2,200 this past year. That's also a pretty big increase. And I know he has DJ Moore now.
He'll get to 3,100.
Okay, I hope he does. But I also wonder about this. Is there a little, Lamar Jackson, when he won that MVP, it was because we hadn't seen anything like that in a while. It'd been like prime Michael Vick.
Yeah.
Now we've seen it. So I'm not saying I'm not impressed. I am very impressed by guys who are able to run like that. But you have a few running quarterbacks in the league who are doing this. Does it take a little bit of the shine off of Fields that Lamar just did this? Is it not as, oh my goodness, wow, when you have other quarterbacks who run a lot?
Yeah,
Josh Allen runs, Daniel Jones runs.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Fields really runs.
Different.
I mean, he could run for 1,500 yards.
But that wasn't a winning formula.
Yeah, no, that was
not what you want.
That was not ideal. But I mean, listen, honestly, though, I think we're looking back on and not forgetting how crazy Jalen Hurts' season last year. Nobody saw that coming. He was good his second year, but he was nothing. That jump was huge. So guys take giant jumps. That's just what happens in the NFL. I think, honestly, Trevor Lawrence is probably the more likely giant jump.
That's what I was going to say. I thought if there's going to be a guy who's going to be the young dude, I think it's going to be Lawrence if he puts up like insane touchdown numbers, you know?
Right, but I think
I can also see Herbert getting in this conversation too.
Yeah, but I think you'll get much better odds on Justin Fields than those guys. Lawrence is plus 1,600, where Fields is between plus 20 to 1 and 25 to 1. So Lawrence is a little higher up there. That's not a bad bet. It's not a bad bet at all. I think that people are looking at the running and saying, wow, Justin Fields, he almost set the all-time record for most yards by a quarterback running.
Yeah.
Who else can run an 80-yard touchdown? Lamar, Justin, he is fast. I mean, he outruns everybody. I don't see it either. But I like it. How about my guy Jordan Love? He fits the formula as well.
They
won 8 games last year. Say they win 12 games and Jordan Love throws 40 touchdowns. People love to give it to a new player.
Yes. I mean, the way that Jordan Love was talking about training camp, they can barely complete a pass as an offense. So if he ended up winning MVP, yeah, I would be surprised.
That would help to complete a few passes.
It's time to answer our Ask the Pros question of the day. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Today's question comes from Calvin, who's in Michigan. Should the NFL loosen up and let Dan Campbell have a live lion on the sidelines? You can submit a question by tweeting it at CBS Sports Radio or at Maggie and Pearl using the hashtag #AskThePros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Yes, this was Dan Campbell on the Part of My Take podcast.
You said that you had considered getting a pet lion on the sidelines.
I did. I would say that she had no problem with it, but the league apparently frowns on those type of things.
Roger Goodell, John Gruden was right.
I'm not going to point out Roger on this. I'm just going to say that the league frowns on that. Let's just say that.
I mean, what are you, Siegfried and Roy? I mean, he wanted like a live lion. I just kept thinking about Mike Tyson in The Hangover, you know, with the lion that ends up in the hotel room. Like,
was that a lion or a tiger?
What? I mean, you know,
well,
same.
I was going to say, Mike, don't even put up a poll on should the Lions be able to have a lion on the sideline, because that's a yes. That's a strong yeah. Put a lion on the sideline. Hello.
I'm kind of surprised they said no. I mean, in college, you have all these live mascots, you know. Yeah. In Texas, you have multiple horses through many different schools.
I think it's different having a bulldog, a horse, and a lion.
Well, they have these birds of prey that some schools put out there.
No, the Seahawks. The Seahawks have a hawk that flies around. Remember, RG3 raced it.
I mean, obviously Chicago Bears could put up that guy in the bear uniform in China.
Here's the thing. I think there's a reason why the league said no specifically to Dan Campbell and having a live lion at their facility.
Why is that?
Because they know Dan Campbell at some point would try to fight that lion.
Yeah. But by the way, they never really said no. You're joking, right?
Oh, the Dan Campbell story here?
He never really asked the league, can I have a live lion?
Well, I don't know if he's joking or not. He probably is.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I think that if the league did, in fact, say no, it's because they thought Dan Campbell would fight this lion.
And
he would challenge it to a fight.
Yeah, and win.
Like, if you told me which NFL coach is most likely to, like, box a kangaroo, it would be Dan Campbell. So you're just one step away from a lion.
Absolutely. Have you seen the China sun bear, by the way?
I saw the collie. Is that what you're talking about?
No. This is incredible.
The guy who had the $14,000 collie costume, the dog costume?
Mike, have you seen it? There's this bear in China, in a Chinese zoo, who's a human in a bear costume that the government keeps claiming is an actual bear.
But it's a human?
Well,
you'll have to look at it in the break.
I read into it. It's like a honey bear, or it's got like a special like tropical bear name or something.
It's a sun bear.
Sun bear. There you go. That's the name.
And it waves to people like a human waving.
Are you guys just making this up because I said the Altuve thing wasn't real?
But I've seen the pictures. Like
this is bigger than. I'm sorry. This is bigger than Trump being indicted online. This is the giant. This is the biggest story in the world right now. You have not seen the
Chinese sun bear? Probably a lot more sane people talking about this.
We'll look at it in the break.
I mean, they're denying it. They're saying it's a real bear, and I've seen the picture.
Does the bear waves?
It stands on its hind legs in a way that looks like it's a person. But like I've seen enough pictures where I think it's a bear.
Really? I think it's a human.
Are you guys messing with us? Are you talking about a real story?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. The Chinese sun bear, this is going to take over your brain, Maggie. I know how you think. Once you get a hold of this, you're going to wonder
Stu,
if it's a
did you see
conspiracy.
this?
I did.
Okay.
It's definitely a human. You could tell from behind. It's a costume.
Yeah, because it crumples up in the back.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. So why is the Chinese government insisting, or the Chinese government or the people at the zoo are insisting it's real?
That's a great question.
No, the people at the zoo. I don't know about the government, but I know the people at the zoo specifically have said it's a real person.
And by the way, take that out of the podcast, and I don't want to be on the record saying anything about the Chinese government. I feel like I get a blow dart in the neck.
By the way, who do you think runs the Chinese zoo? Probably, but
yeah,
anyway.
well, that's what I'm saying. I think they run everything there. Enough about politics.
Yeah, look at the video.
This could be it's kind of skinny for a bear.
Yeah, it's really weird. I would urge everybody to check out this sun bear and see if they think it's human.
I don't know. See, but here's the thing, okay? And I've never been to China. I've never the farthest I've been in that part of the world is Thailand. There are different types of animals there that they just don't have here.
But the way he's waving is so unusual. But he could have been trained to do that, or he or she. I'm actually not sure.
Yeah, it's named Angela. It's a girl.
Okay. It's become such a online debate. People, it's so stupid. I think everyone would rather debate, is this bear real, than real stuff.
Oh, actually, so here's apparently, according to CNN, this is why people are upset, because in 2013, a city zoo in a different province angered visitors by trying to pass off a bull mastiff as a lion. Yeah, I can get why people wouldn't trust you after that. A dog is not a lion.
Yeah. The only reason why people think it is, if you look at it, it's kind of wrinkly by the butt, so it almost looks like a loose outfit, but, then it lays back down and it's totally fine.
No, it's the way it's waving.
It's a wrinkly bear.
No. It's the way it's waving. It has nothing to do with any of that.
It's not even waving. It's just kind of got its paws up and then kind of
You're telling me that thing is not waving? It is waving to some little kid saying, hey, I'm here.
I saw a video on TikTok 2 days ago where some car was driving in the forest and a bear literally sitting on the side of the road waved at it. Animals, they make hand motions. It's not waving at people.
Come
hold on. Nick
Mike.
in Texas has a thought here in the chat, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio. He said, bears do that wave thing when they're hungry. He read about it, and the bear does look malnourished. I think Nick's onto something. I'm sorry, I did not see this story. We didn't talk about it in the pre-show meeting, and it didn't get in my feed. I saw the guy who's dressed as a dog and spent $14,000 on a realistic dog costume. Yes. I think he was in Japan, though.
This has a similar feel.
Yeah, but that guy's not in a zoo. That guy's out on a date with some woman walking him on a leash or something.
I completely misunderstood or misread that story at first, or at least the headline. I thought that some guy got surgery to become a dog.
I was like, what doctor would ever do that? It's it's a costume.
I was really pleased that it was just a costume.
Which I think begs a question about the Chinese sun bear. Why would the zoo do that?
What?
Have a human in a bear costume.
Yeah, because now we're talking about it. I'm sure people all over China are like, let me go see this human in a bear costume now.
I think it was intentional.
You think this is all a PR stunt?
No, but it's not, because it's a bear.
Okay, so you're convinced it's a bear.
100%.
I think it's a bear.
I think it's just like the Big Show controversy from earlier. Did Jose Altuve wear a buzzer? I think there are a lot of people out there that think it's a human in a bear costume.
Well, yeah, that's why I thought you guys were punking me, because I'm the only one on the show who does not think Altuve was wearing a buzzer. And now you guys are like, ugh.
Yeah, I told you, a lot of people think that. And the poll results are 80% think that it was a buzzer.
Yeah. I knew I was going to lose the poll. But in my mind, I think I'm still right.
It's actually up to 81%, Perloff.
Thanks. That's also residual Astros hate. 855-212-4CBS. 855-212-4227. All right, well, you learned something new. Apparently, there's some kind of big bear controversy going on. Forgive me, I was reading about the indictment.
I think the fake bear will have as much results as that indictment, but I'm not going to get into that.
Here we go. Coming up, this will be fun. Of course, we're talking about great rivalries this week. Yesterday, we did the greatest college football rivalry of all time. So we revisit that today with Bobby Carpenter, the former Ohio State linebacker who was part of so many of those great games against Michigan. He will join us next. We'll talk that. We'll talk a little more of what's going on in college football. Don't move. Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. Minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. It is Rivalry Week on our show. And, well, yesterday we did college football rivalry.
We did.
Greatest of all time. Perloff, of course, went with
Michigan, Ohio State.
I went with Army Navy, and we would like to get the thoughts of someone who was up close and participated in one of these rivalries, and that is Bobby Carpenter. He's a former Ohio State linebacker. He's now the host of Morning Juice on 97.1 The Fan in Columbus. Bobby, thank you so much for the time today. How are you?
Oh, Maggie, I'm doing great, man. And we are on the precipice here of college football kicking off. I mean, the Week 0 teams are ready to rock, and the NFL now we're in the first week of training camp, so it's a good time of the year for everybody.
Yeah, and I saw a video. Were you out there running gassers? What's going on there?
Yeah, I turned 40 yesterday, so I wanted to go back and do the conditioning test from when I was at Ohio State. I try to work out with the guys there at Ohio State, a couple of times a week, and try to still feel sharp. And sometimes you feel like you have it a little bit, sometimes you don't. And fortunately, I was able to go out there and get it done and handle that in the best way possible.
Well, the question is, how do you feel today? Yeah. Is the big issue.
Well, the problem is usually after something like that, I'd get in the cold tub and I'd be good. But I had a lot of things going on yesterday, and I had to skip that. I had lunch with my wife, so I had to get out of there quickly, and I didn't get the cold tub in. So, joints were a little sore last night, hamstrings a little tight as I was coaching my 10-year-old at football practice.
Man, Bobby Carpenter's 40th birthday, he was doing the conditioning test at Ohio State. I turned 42 months ago. I think my biggest accomplishment was taking a whole bottle of white wine right to the head. Bobby, you and I are just different that way. But that's okay. Happy birthday to you. So about the Ohio State and Michigan rivalry, obviously, I'm sure, you're asked about this all the time. But because it is rivalry week here on the show, we're doing sports rivalries and non-sports rivalries, too, which we'll get your thoughts on. But your favorite memory or biggest memory from those Ohio State-Michigan battles?
It's crazy. We went 3-1 in those games, and I grew up a product of the 90s. Where Michigan was dominating against some very good Ohio State teams, and the teams that were probably national championship contenders or potentially winners should they have been able to win that game, and unfortunately they couldn't get it done. So it was kind of, I came in the era when it kind of all flipped, and so we won in 2002. It was something that was great. It's the first time they'd won back-to-back games, and my goodness, 14, 15 years, lost in 2003, and we won in my senior year in 2005 up there, so that winning up there was a big deal. For me, but probably the one that kind of epitomizes the rivalry the most was in 2004. It was a team that I was a part of that ended up going 8-4, but coming into that game we were 6-4, and we were out of the obviously the Big Ten playoff hunt. We'd lost 3 in a row earlier in the season, and Michigan was, I believe, 8-1 and basically 9-1 and had wrapped up the Big Ten already. They were going to the Rose Bowl. We were able to we went down early in the game, I think 14-3, and battled back and ended up winning that game by more than double digits. So, and that made our season. And so I remember vividly being in there, like going 8-4 with the Alamo Bowl. Michigan's going to the Rose Bowl, but I could sense there was a fuller feeling in our locker room than there was in theirs, because winning that game, it wasn't just the cherry on the Sunday of the season. It basically made our season, help propel us to be able to have the success that we had the next year and ultimately in the coming years after. So that, to me, kind of, it just epitomizes everything that game is all about, that winning that game means more than just a game. It can really define your season as a player.
Bobby, you played in the NFL as well. Why is it that college rivalries, especially in football, just seem so much more intense, at least to me, than pro rivalries?
Well, you look at professional football, and college has kind of changed a little bit with the transfer portal and how everything goes. But in college, guys are usually there 3, 4, 5 years. You get legacies, guys that have played there before. I played one of my teammates there. His dad had played at Ohio State, especially at Michigan. It's a regional thing. You always kind of dream of usually going to the school in your state. And then also, there's the element of whether you had family members that played football there or not. My aunt went to Ohio State, or my grandpa went there, or, they went to Michigan, and, we're from Detroit, or maybe I'm from Toledo and I went to Michigan, all these things. And you remember growing up and going to the games and watching them and talking about them. And even though, like I said, you may not have played football, you still have that diploma maybe hanging on your wall. And so that ties you to that university in a way that professional sports can never tie you. You're a fan, you may be a season ticket holder, but it's not the same as, walking through campus, walking the halls, being a part of the marching band or playing another sport there, whatever it might be. Those are the things that separate collegiate athletics from the professional realm.
Bobby Carpenter is joining us. He's a former Ohio State linebacker. He's the host of Morning Juice on 97.1 The Fan in Columbus. Bobby, as someone who's on the outside of this rivalry, just enjoys it as a spectator, it seems kind of crazy to me to think that Ryan Day could be feeling any heat just because Ohio State has lost 2 in a row. You're obviously very much in this rivalry. What do you think?
Ryan gets it. He's talked about it publicly. He understands the pressure that's there. I know it's tough because he came right off of an unprecedented run of 20 years where, Michigan, I think, had won 2 or 3 games, going back since 2001 all the way until 2021. And he took over, they win a game, and you have COVID, you have all kinds of stuff. You lose one up there, you lose one down here. And, there's a good chance that, they're a 50-yard field goal make away from potentially winning the national championship last year. But all that pales in comparison, to being able to, beat that team up north, as they say. So there's a lot of pressure. People at Ohio State take a lot of pride in it, almost to the point where you'd rather, beat Michigan than win a national championship, which is a little crazy to think, but there's just so much pride, just especially people going through the era of the 90s where you had some generational teams that just couldn't get it done, against Michigan. That was tough. So it's a very, very difficult situation for him, and he knows the pressure that's on him. The players understand it, and I don't think. It's a good thing is Coach Tressel, who coached me, was at Ohio State for 10 years and went 9-1. He recently retired from Youngstown State. He was the guy that kind of flipped the rivalry, and I know that he's been in contact with Coach Day. I know that they've had conversations, and the one thing Tressel was so good at is he was process oriented. And everybody gets so focused in results, but the reality is in life, it's the process that gets you there. And I know that he's talked with Ryan about that, and I feel very good about where they're at heading into this season. They're playing a Michigan team that's going to be, top 5 for sure, probably top 2 or 3, and that game's going to mean everything. The Saturday after Thanksgiving.
Bobby, is it a real quarterback battle with Kyle McCord and Devin Brown in Ohio State?
I tend to think Kyle has the advantage. Just being around there, seeing him. I know Devin hurt his hand. Wasn't able to participate in the last week or so with spring ball, and that's tough. And anytime a guy coming in, and someone's got a year up on him, that makes it a lot easier. You know the offense, you know the system, you're confident in everything that's going on. You were the backup the year before, you got in some games. And so I would say that I would give the edge to Kyle. If he goes out and plays poorly, and Devin plays well, it's going to be his job. But I have a tendency to believe, if you ask me where to put the smart money, I would put it on Kyle McCord right now.
Bobby Carpenter is joining us, former Ohio State linebacker, host of Morning Juice on 97.1 The Fan in Columbus. Last one for me for you, Bobby. It's a little bigger picture here. Obviously UCLA and USC are going to join the Big Ten next year. And the Big Ten has kind of said, I know the commissioners recently said, all right, we're going to sort of back off on adding schools for now. But how long do you think it is before the Big Ten starts adding more schools with considering the landscape here, and it feels like a bit of a land grab, even more so than before?
I had heard this, that, part of the USC-UCLA addition is they didn't want anyone else on the West Coast joining for recruiting reasons. Now, it seems kind of crazy because you think they'd want some people out there that didn't have to travel 2,000 miles to play. But if that's the case, I know Washington and Oregon are very appealing. We'll see Colorado join the Big 12. We'll see if Arizona and Arizona State potentially move. If they move, I can't imagine Utah not moving as well. With the way that the Big 12 TV contract set up, where every school from a Power 5 conference that comes in gets an additional share. And if that's the case, that you start looking around, and there may be one more big additional round of reorganization. And if that's the case, you could see Florida State and Clemson moving. You could potentially see North Carolina come to the Big Ten. Maybe Notre Dame finally joins the conference. I don't think that it's something that they're looking at and being aggressive towards, but if something does happen and there is another big move, I can see the Big Ten trying to position itself right there, and maybe it's a North Carolina or a Notre Dame or an Oregon, whoever it might be. They're going to be very selective because they don't want to share any more of that revenue, but if they can add schools that make sense on a dollar value and care about athletics the way that the schools in the Big Ten do, then I could see that potentially happening.
One more big picture question for you, Bobby. Last year there was a column, I don't know if you ever saw this, from Sports Illustrated's Michael Rosenberg, saying that when college football goes to 12 teams, that will, in essence, kill the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry because it won't mean as much because both teams will often know that they're going to the playoffs. Do you agree with that?
It's tough. And, Ryan Day was asked a question about, should they consider moving it, given the fact that they're going to go divisionless and you could play in the final week of the season. You could play that game in the Big Ten Championship and then potentially play it again in the playoffs. And, playing 3 times over the course of, 6 weeks, that's kind of wild. And so the one thing that's great about college football, we just talked about those traditions, the rivalries, and, it breaks my heart the fact that, you start looking at, Bedlam isn't going to happen anymore. And, should Oregon leave? I mean, you're not going to have, the Civil War anymore. Like some of these rivalries, you didn't have Texas and Texas A&M for the long time. Like games that I grew up watching, you haven't seen Oklahoma, Nebraska on a regular basis. And I hope that those never fully go away. And regardless of how you move them, where you put them, there's always going to be something special about that game for Ohio State and Michigan. I mean, it's got over 100 years of tradition. It's fantastic. And, people always want to know, like, what your record was at Ohio State. And that's not your overall record. It's what were you against Michigan. And, I take a lot of pride in saying I got 3 pairs of gold pants. Like, you get a pair of charm every time you win. And so I don't think it'll ever be fully diminished. But it might take a couple chunks out of it, just based upon playing multiple times in a year. And potentially if they choose to move it off that final week of the regular season.
Bobby, last one. So we're doing non-sports rivalries as well. Just quickly want to get your take. We're doing greatest TV show rivalries of all time. Perloff went with Letterman versus Leno. I went with Seinfeld versus Friends. Any of those speak to you?
Those are good. I mean, I was always a Leno guy. I liked Friends. I liked Seinfeld. Probably a little more Friends in my wheelhouse. I know you got music in there. I mean, you could maybe go Pearl Jam and Nirvana if you want to kind of go, some early 90s grunge. In there, and it was crazy because I was always a big Nirvana fan, and my guy Tony Romo in Dallas, he made a strong argument to me at one point that Pearl Jam was better than Nirvana, and he goes, if it wasn't for Kurt Cobain's passing, they were already fading away, and no one wants to diminish that, but I started looking at it, I came around to the other side, and so I may be one of the few people that actually flip my position based upon a good argument now in this world. Where I actually probably flipped over to Pearl Jam and Eddie Vedder over Kurt Cobain and Nirvana.
Wow, it's so funny. We just did music yesterday. We're talking about, have you ever seen the video where Kurt Cobain and Eddie Vedder hugged backstage about a couple weeks before Kurt Cobain died? That they didn't like each other for most of their run, then finally figured it out?
And I have seen that. And that's how I'm a child of the 90s. I was huge in grunge. I mean, grunge, I had Nevermind. I had Neural. I've got all Pearl Jam's albums. Like back when you buy a whole CD and the whole stinking thing, you could recognize it by the album art. But yeah, that was one of the iconic moments of like them connecting. You're glad that happens ultimately before, when someone passes, because that's just a terrible way to end things if you're ending on a bad note.
Bobby, we should have been calling you in for all the non-sports rivalries. Why are we messing around with this Ohio State-Michigan stuff? We could have been doing all of our other non-sports stuff. Bobby, thanks so much for the time again. Happy birthday.
Hey, my pleasure, guys. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks, Bobby.
Bobby Carpenter is former Ohio State linebacker, played in the NFL, of course, too. Host of Morning Juice, 97.1 The Fan in Columbus.
Okay.
Big Nirvana guy. And then switched because of a compelling Tony Romo argument. Wow.
I know we're running out of show, and we have a sports. We got to get into this conference realignment debate we had pre-show.
Bring it on.
I think we should take a break because I disagree with you on this one.
Okay. Yeah, Perloff and I don't agree on the future of college football realignment, but we'll get to that. If you would like to weigh in on our TV show debate, greatest TV rivalries, where I have Seinfeld versus Friends, Perloff has Letterman and Leno. If there's one we missed, let us know. Coming up also, the one QB who's putting his off-the-field training to good use. We get to that. A lot to do. After this CBS Sports Update, here's Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Well, there is now a tie for the lead in the American League West, with Houston winning again today, defeating the Guardians by a score of 3-2 behind a pair of homers from Chas McCormick. The co-leading Rangers will host the White Sox later this evening. Right now, bottom of the fifth, Boston leads Seattle 3-0. Jarren Duran with his 7th home run of the season. In that one, the Braves hit 3 today in a 12-5 rout of the Angels. Ronald Acuna started things off. A 3-run shot in the third. Austin Riley and Matt Olson also went deep. For Olson was his 37th home run of the season. 25 for Riley and Acuna. Also today was Detroit beating Pittsburgh by a score of 6-3. In the National League, Washington topped Milwaukee with 2 in the bottom of the ninth to to win it by a score of 3-2. Right now, top of the ninth in San Diego. It's in Colorado. The Rockies trail the Padres by a score of 5-1. San Diego has hit 3 home runs. Ha-Seong Kim led off with a home run, his 15th. Juan Soto. Gary Sanchez has hit 2 now. He has 14. I'm Rich Eckler.
Looking for CBS Sports Radio online? Your favorite hosts and the best sports content and entertainment are available 24/7 on social media and YouTube, and in the palm of your hand with the free Odyssey app.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining.1 minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the show. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff, the Maggie and Perloff Show. CBS Sports Radio. You can also listen to us on the free Odyssey app, on Sirius XM Channel 158, on YouTube.com/CBS Sports Radio, or you can always download the Maggie and Perloff podcast, and if you're there, give us a 5-star. We'd appreciate it. Okay, we've been talking about rivalries. It is rivalry week on the show. Today, greatest baseball rivalries of all time and also greatest television rivalries of all time. I said Seinfeld Friends. Perloff said Letterman Leno. Mike in California has another one for us. Hi, Mike. What did we miss?
Hey, guys. I think both of you guys were good. I tend to go more with Perloff on the more modern era, but I'm going classic and old school. The Addams Family versus the Munsters.
Man, It's like they were like almost a direct rip, right? It's like the same idea.
Mike, I looked it up. Did they go right against each other? Like they were both on air at the same time, or is that a mistake?
I don't know if it was the exact same night, but it was the same era, the same time frame, just a different network. So, I mean, they were pretty much the exact same show, except one was on one network and who the characters were, but the concept was identical.
Yeah, and like they each had like a tall guy, like the dad or Lurch was it's the mothers with the dark hair. They look kind of like witches. So crazy.
You had Cousin Ed versus the Hand.
Yeah, right. Cousin versus the Hand. Hey, Mike, real quick, did I see in the chat with the Weedos that there might be a Perloff, Maggie and Perloff or Weedos cookbook on the way, or a recipe book?
Well, so Nick kind of reached out to me. So on Fridays, I'm going to start posting whatever I'm going to be cooking on the Traeger or smoking or cooking, some other way. I'll post a couple pictures of something and then some, recipe pointers. And then after the weekend's over on Monday or Tuesday, I'll post the final picture of what it came out to look like.
Oh my gosh, this is amazing. A Weedos recipe book.
Love it.
How lucky are we? This is awesome. Thank you, Mike, so much.
Not a problem. Yeah, this last weekend I did, Friday night was smoked pork belly burnt-in tacos with a cilantro jalapeno coleslaw on top with a spicy mayo dressing with rice and beans.
What time should Maggie and I be over? Because this
we can catch a flight by 7 p.m.
So, yeah, if you guys go to the Facebook page, the Perloff, there's actually I posted the picture of the final tacos today, and then Friday I have pictures of the burnt ends being cooked in process.
Mike,
wow.
I mean, wow. We don't deserve you. You're the best. Thank you so much for doing it. Appreciate it. I can't wait to look this up. All right, everyone vamp while we look at pictures of
and tacos.
That's your jam right there.
Oh, I love... Wait, no, pork belly. Pork belly,
yeah.
Pork belly is
and
my favorite thing in the world. If it's done well, it's the best.
With the cilantro slaw and the... that's
I didn't actually hear the slaw. I could do without that.
Oh, man. I
Bring
want
on the meat.
I want all the toppings, all the fixins. Let's get to the shot of the day.
He shoots!
And the shot of the day is brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos is brought to you by those who drink it. Well, you know what, guys? This one's on me. Apparently, the whole world thinks that Jose Altuve actually had a buzzer on when was this in the World Series? No, the ALCS? Yeah, the ALCS. When I thought that the cheating ended with the trash can banging.
The Altuve buzzer is definite.
Oh, you guys are nuts if you think he actually had a buzzer under there. He didn't.
What? Wait, Stu, do you believe the buzzer?
I believe the buzzer.
You do?
I think everybody believes the buzzer.
No. Think about how silly that really is. Does anyone else have a buzzer? Has anyone come forth about the buzzer?
Throughout history, I'm sure there's been thousands of buzzers.
On that team. You think all these years later, nobody would have spilled the beans?
Yeah, but it was so awkward the way he was hiding something.
He had a stupid tattoo and didn't want people to rip his shirt off.
Oh, get out of here.
I believe that.
Who on earth?
Sure.
Anyone I know with a tattoo wants to show that tattoo more than anything in the world.
Wow, you guys sound whack. Meanwhile, I'm losing our poll like 1,000,000-0. Everyone out there thinks that Altuve had the buzzer. All right, I stand corrected. Jeez.
I mean, I'm not saying that Altuve definitely had it, but somebody's tried a buzzer before because stealing pitches is obviously such a huge advantage. I'll go out there and try it. If nobody else will try it. If they do it in poker, do it in baseball.
Man, when we heard about it. Anyway, okay, we put that to the side because Perloff and I were talking about this actually before the show, which was a article that I read from our pal Stu Mandel from The Athletic. He does a mailbag, and someone asked, could you see the ACC, okay, it's the ACC and the Pac-12, what's left of it, merging?
Okay.
And I kind of think they're on to something here. Now, geographically, this is so stupid.
Yeah.
You know, like the Pacific Northwest is also going to be playing against teams in South Florida. Like, this would just make no sense. But you want to know what? These geographic things went out the window years ago. I was watching a conference where, like, UConn was playing in a conference with the University of Houston.
Right, that was a terrible failure.
Okay, but the cat's out of the bag already.
That was UConn and Houston. This is Washington versus Florida State. That's not going to happen.
Okay, but what are the options here for what's left of the Pac-12? You're not going to join. I mean, the Big 12 right now is poaching everybody, but people believe the Big 12 is kind of like the third thing. If the ACC and the Pac-12 got together, maybe you have a shot of being as relevant as the Big 10 or the SEC, or at least getting as much money from your TV deal.
Nope. The elite ACC teams have to peel out and get into the SEC. I mean,
or the Big Ten. We just talked to Bobby Carpenter. He said, what about Carolina and Duke going to the Big Ten?
They got to go to the SEC. You got to keep it regional. I think you have to, and clearly you have to have Clemson playing these, Clemson and Florida State, specifically in football, playing these other SEC schools. You'd have Florida State. You'd have Clemson, South Carolina. You'd have Clemson, Alabama. There'd be so many great matchups. And then I think you could fold North Carolina and Duke. Duke in football has some work to do. But I think you could fold all that into a great regional. Eventually, I think it could be a SEC and Big Ten rule the world. And then
okay, but let's just say that doesn't happen. Right?
Well, I mean, it's going to happen, but okay.
Let's just say, for argument's sake, that's long down the road or doesn't happen. If you had, if it's true that USC and UCLA did not want Oregon and Washington to join the Big Ten because they wanted to be the only West Coast Big Ten school, thought it was a recruiting advantage. I mean, then if I'm Oregon and Washington, I'm like, well, okay, now I can be the only West Coast school that's now in this super ACC Pac-12 thing. And maybe I get an advantage there. Plus, I get to play big games. So, like, I get Oregon, versus Clemson and stuff like that. And then in basketball, I get Duke, Arizona. Like, it's not bad.
Oh, I don't like it at all. And obviously, the ACC schools are the spring. Do you remember the story where the 7 schools in the ACC are trying legally to peel off into the SEC? I think it could happen and happen soon. And it makes more sense. The geography bothers me too much. And also, it just doesn't feel right as far as sort of parity. Where college football is going, you got to have these elite Southeastern schools playing each other. I don't want to see Oregon State versus Virginia Tech. Like, that's not doing anything for me.
Well, but here's the question. Like, so you say you have Duke goes in the SEC.
Yeah, the SEC's gotten great at basketball.
No, but like, we see what happens with Vandy every year, right? Because
Duke's
they have an admission standard.
Yeah, I mean, Duke's had some good teams.
That's going to compete with Alabama and LSU?
I mean,
if Vandy can't do it, how could Duke do it?
But Duke at least has made a New Year's Eve bowl in the last 10 years.
Blip. I mean,
I don't know.
I'm just saying, like, that doesn't really add up either. I feel like if you had Oregon, Washington, Stanford matching up with North Carolina,
Duke's got like a pro quarterback this year that everyone's into too. But this kid Riley Leonard, Duke has some years. They're better than Vanderbilt. I mean, if Vanderbilt can be there, Duke is not as much into the academics for their sports programs as you think.
But that's one thing. And I'm just talking about forget the geography. If you were just talking about which of these things are more like the other, don't you think that Oregon, Washington, North Carolina, Duke. It does kind of make sense to me. I sort of get it.
I think North Carolina is a lot more like South Carolina, and I don't know. All those big state schools in the Southeast are closer. They're the same thing. What's the difference between University of Oregon and, I don't know, North Carolina? Yeah, I understand what you're saying. There's sort of glamour to those programs, but I think those
So what does
they
Washington
fold really
and Oregon
well into
do?
I think eventually, half the powers are going to be in the SEC and half the powers are going to be in the Big Ten.
Okay, but
that's what I think.
But that's
but
not
I would
right.
I'd go Big 12 if the Big Ten won't take you. That's what I would do.
Okay, but that's tough.
Or keep the Pac. I don't know. Keep the Pac something going.
Yeah, they're looking at right now, maybe just doing a streaming only TV
And also,
service.
okay, if you're talking a merger, why wouldn't the ACC say, well, okay, let's do business. Give us Oregon and Washington, and then let's call it a day.
That could happen.
That doesn't help the Pac-12 at all.
No, well, the Pac-12 would probably dissolve at that point. I mean, because then the Arizona schools would probably, I don't know, join the Big 12, and Colorado's already gone, and Utah would go wherever Arizona's go, and then you're basically looking at nothing for the Pac-12.
Yeah, I mean, I do think even those, it'd just be, people would laugh hysterically if Oregon and Washington are in the Atlantic Coast Conference where they're sitting there playing Florida State. I mean, it's crazy.
Okay, but it's not like it was Oregon and Washington's first choice here.
No.
It was just, it's by convenience. It's a matter of, you got to play the hand you're dealt. They're supposed to sit there with a crumbling conference, even though they're two teams that actually are trying to vie for national
I'll tell you
titles.
one person who doesn't want anything to do with that part of it. Bo Nix is like, as long as you don't make me play Georgia again,
Yeah, no,
I'm fine.
that's not fair.
And Oregon's like, we're good not being the SEC. Let's just keep that very clear. No, I kid. It was 49-3. No big deal.
Oh, boy. Yeah. I mean,
actually, if I'm any school, I don't want to be in the same conference as Georgia now.
They're in a class all by themselves, I think, is what's going on. Okay, so last thing, Tua Tagovailoa. Quickly, I mentioned it, a quarterback using off-the-field strategies to help him on the field. We mentioned that Tua had gotten into jiu-jitsu, and apparently it's working.
I got hit from someone in the front of me, but I sort of hit a little somersault going backwards, and I flipped backwards. It was cool to see because now when we start to do that, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing that we're doing jiu-jitsu falls.
The jiu-jitsu is working. He kind of did like an I turn in midair.
Well, yeah,
I mean, sort of flipped around. Like what?
He described like sort of an accidental. Somebody was backing up into him. It wasn't like you can't hit the quarterback. But I don't buy that you can actually apply jiu-jitsu when you're getting, tackled by Chris Jones.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we're going to all find out this year whether the jiu-jitsu is actually going to help.
Oh man, I hope he doesn't have to rely on jiu-jitsu.
I think it's cool. He's helping himself out there. It's like,
I hope so.
He's trying to protect himself. Dolphins have to hope he can. Thank you to Mike Samter. Thank you to Stu Kovacs. Thank you to Eric Stangel, former showrunner from David Letterman, who joined us today. To Bobby Carpenter, the former Ohio State linebacker, who joined us today. Rivalry Week continues tomorrow. Thank you to the Weedos and the Purple Drinkers, the callers. See you then.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining.